So good afternoon. Good afternoon, all participants, and welcome to the online seminar on circular economies and resource efficiency in plastic, electronics, and food sectors, experiences from the Asia Pacific. So my name is Anin, a faculty member at the Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University. And this event is hosted by the Policy Research Centers on Green Economy, or Pro-Green, at Thammasat Universities, under the project Recycling Systems, Achieving Sustainable Development Goals through Climate Actions, Nature's Actions, and Pollution Actions, funded by the UN's environmental programs. Today, we invited great speakers from China, Japan, Pakistan, and Singapore to share and discuss experiences regarding circular economy on plastic e-waste and food waste in their countries. We will also learn about private sector initiatives for circular economies from businesses in Thailand as well. And of course, any experiences from the participants are also welcome. Without further ado, I would like to start our webinars by inviting Dr. Mushtaq Memon, Regional Coordinators for Resource Efficiency, UNEP Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, for welcoming remarks. Please welcome Dr. Mushtaq.
Thank you, Amin, and good afternoon, good morning, colleagues and everyone. So as we are today discussing the circular economy in the context of resource efficiency, focusing on plastic, electronics, and food sectors. So why this focus? So from the United Nations Environment Program, as we see that the COVID-19, when it struck and the lockdown started, and UNEP had a COVID response, and we have 4 building blocks. So the first one where I'm coordinating globally on that's basically on the COVID waste. And then also the second one where I am on the regional level, that is the green recovery. So if we look on this phenomena of COVID lockdowns, the 3 important sectors come into the focus. Plastics, because of e-commerce, because of the food deliveries, because of the mask, the protective equipment, and so on. And that increased the challenge of the plastic pollution, which was already there enormously. And we all know that there's so much of work is being done because of the plastic pollution in the marine environment, over the land, and so on. Number 2, also we saw because of the moving the homeschooling, home offices, everything, there was a lot of electronics, especially ICTs, tablets, batteries, and all this came into the practice as well because of the lockdowns, and a lot of waste was coming out. And the third one was, as I mentioned, the food deliveries and so on. So that's also a huge shift in that way, that instead of bringing the food, there was a cooked food ordered, and how much we eat, how much we throw, and so on. But the more important part was also that the full value chain. Because of the lockdowns, the value chains were broken. The waste management systems were broken. Informal sectors were not in the field and so on because of the COVID and so on. So basically this increased the pressure on the virgin materials to produce the plastics, to produce the electronics, and also for the food and so on. So when we look on this resource efficiency, that means, let's say 1 ton of the metals, how far it can help our quality of life through electronics. So it depends, number 1, let's say how much we use the electronics for that in terms of its longevity, in terms of its usage. Suppose if I have 3 computers, then that means I need only 1 computer at one time. So other 2 computers may be sitting idle that time. So that already decreased the resource efficiency for that. And if every computer I change every year, instead of 2-3 years, that again reduce the efficiency for that. So if you go on and on, you can see that every ton or every, let's say, water, like cubic meter of water for the food systems, or every like a methane emission from the rice, how far it is going to help? It all depends on this longevity, on the technologies, policies, and so on. So when we talk about the circular economy, it works throughout the value chain. So whether even we look at the waste or recycling, we have to see for the eco designs. We have to see the longevity of the products through shared economy, through the repair, refurbishment, and so on. And that's how we connect the dots to make every drop counts of water, or make every ton of steel to go as long as it can for supporting our needs for the electronics and mobility and so on. So at that note, I would like to see that how we can really help through this circular economy, focusing on resource efficiency, especially on these three areas, to address the green recovery as well, to create new jobs and so on, based on the circular economy, and more important, to improve the quality of life by maximizing efficient use of the resources, and that comes through the closing the loop as local as possible. So at that note, I would like to thank everyone, all the speakers, especially my colleagues, Dr. Sujitara, where we had together in Hiroshima University. And since then, we are working together, Kojima-san, Dr. Shahbaz, and everyone. So over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mushtaq. So next, I would like to welcome Assistant Professor Dr. Supachai Sushar, the Dean of Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University, for welcoming remarks. Please welcome Dr. Supachai.
Good afternoon. Dr. Mushtaq Memon, Regional Coordinator for Resource Efficiency, UNEP Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, United Nations Environment Program, speakers and distinguished guests. On behalf of Faculty of Economics, it is my pleasure to welcome all the participants joining us today for international seminar on circular economy and resource efficiency in plastic, electronic, and food sector, experience from the Asia Pacific. I would like to thank the Policy Research Center on Green Economy or ProGreen, who is the representative of Faculty of Economics for organizing this seminar. I also would like to thank Dr. Memon and UNEP for their kind support of this project. This online seminar is intended for public and private sector stakeholders in Asia and the Pacific who need to incorporate the circular economies issue into their normal practices. This includes but not limited to the government and policymakers, small and medium-sized enterprise, civil society, and the general public. I am confident that today's event can enhance audience understanding of the circular economies and resource efficiency. Today we have range of the experienced speakers from various fields and various countries who successfully implement various measures and organ perspectives, understanding of the issues. The speakers have variety of background, including academics, policy regulators, researchers, and business person. This can achieve the event objective of providing capacity building for analysis on the enabling factor that can support the circular economy and resource efficiency in high impact sector of plastic, food, and electronic and ICT. It would be useful for other countries to learn from, especially from audience from Thailand. It is an honor for the Faculty of Economics, Thammasat University, to receive valuable time from our distinguished speakers from Tsinghua University, China, University of Agricultural Faisalabad, Pakistan, Institute of Developing Economies, JETRO, and Economic Research Institute for Asian and East Asia, the National Environment Agency, Singapore, and business sector from Thailand, including Sivatel Hotel, Bangkok, Exide Distribution System, or Lotus, and Unilever Thai Holding. We hope that this webinar will be one of the driving forces supporting the ultimate goal of circular economies and hence sustainable development as the project intended. With the best from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Kapachan Supachai. Before we begin our seminar, I would like to emphasize again to the Thai participants. Allow me to speak in Thai for a moment. สำหรับผู้ที่เข้าร่วมสัมมนานะครับท่านสามารถฟังคำแปลได้นะครับจากช่องทางไอคอนที่อยู่ทางด้านล่างของจอนะครับที่เขียนว่า interpretation นะครับท่านสามารถที่จะเข้าไปเลือกภาษานะครับเป็นภาษาไทยนะครับช่องภาษาไทยนะฮะท่านก็จะได้ยินนะครับพรีเซนเตอร์เนี่ยนะครับมีการแปลสดเลยนะครับให้ท่านได้ฟังรับฟังนะครับแต่สำหรับท่านใดที่สะดวกภาษาอังกฤษนะฮะท่านก็อยู่ในห้องหลักได้เลยนะครับกดคำว่า off นะครับไม่ต้องไปที่ช่องภาษาอังกฤษนะครับไปที่ช่อง off ก็คือจะได้ยินเสียงของตัวพรีเซนเตอร์นะครับในการพรีเซนต์นะครับได้โดยตรงนะครับผมสำหรับคำถามนะครับท่านสามารถยกมือถามได้นะครับจะมีเวลาให้ท่านประมาณ5 นาทีนะครับหลังจากที่สปีกเกอร์แต่ละท่านนะครับได้พรีเซนต์จบลงนะครับแล้วก็อีกช่องทางหนึ่งนะครับก็คือสามารถพิมพ์เข้ามาได้ในแชทบ็อกซ์นะครับสำหรับตัวเอกสารนะครับก็เดี๋ยวจะมีลิงก์นะครับให้ดาวน์โหลดได้นะครับเราจะโพสต์เข้าไปในแชทบ็อกซ์นะครับสำหรับท่านใดนะครับที่ต้องการเอกสาร Presentation ในวันนี้นะครับซึ่งก็ทางspeakers นะครับก็อนุญาตนะครับให้สามารถแชร์ได้นะครับเดี๋ยวเราจะส่งเข้าไปในแชทบ็อกซ์นะครับสำหรับลิงก์ที่จะใช้ดาวน์โหลดตัว presentation นะครับผมถ้าเข้าใจตรงกันแล้วนะครับตอนนี้ผมก็อยากจะเริ่มนะครับเวทีนะครับการสัมมนาในครั้งนี้นะครับ so I would like to start our seminar นะครับ by inviting Associate Professor Xian Lai Zheng from the School of Environment, Tsinghua University, China, to speak about adventures of e-waste management for circular economy in China. Please welcome Associate Professor Xian Lai Zheng. Good afternoon, professors.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, nice.
Okay, maybe you can have a full screen on your presentations.
Can you take a look at the screen now? Is it
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You
Okay.
should begin. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your inviting me to be here, give the presentations about e-waste. So, good afternoon, everybody, every friends. So, the presentation title is focused on the adventure of e-waste management for circular economy in China. So, basically, we know about in our world. Some of this the material every day we can take the consumption. About is the 50 years ago, about is totally global material consumption is just 27 is G-ton. But now I think it may be for the now it may be 100 G-ton. In the future, I think this the consumption for all the material about is 160 G-tons. So it means our the material to support the society is increasing very faster. Finally, with the material flow, I found them of the material just after the producing, manufacturing, consuming, that is of end of life. So it means all the some material, all the resources could be found think as a waste. This is for our the problem. How to make this the waste recycling of material recycling to support our the industrial development to save our the material or resource depletion. This is the challenge for our world. We have analysis the insight about the product updating and diversity in the past 100 years. Basically, in our world, the product we used, maybe 100 years ago, there's very, very few technical this product. But today, so many electronics, so many different the diversity, the function, the product we use every day, like the electronics, like different some of this the players. So this is for the outer world. In China, is that special some of the history. We know in China there's very famous 4 big items we use every day, because 4 big items is fashion goods, for the young generation. Maybe when they have the wedding, the ceremony, they could buy this big items as the equipment or the machines. In the 50 years ago, at that time, bicycle radios and the wristwatch and the sewing machines is the fashion goods. But currently, I think it could be changed into maybe like apartment, mobile phones, like the vehicles. It's quite different. This means after 4 big items is diversion and evolution to make our changing of function of society. So in this situation, we have generally so many the waste. One type is the electronic waste or e-waste. So e-waste could be identified one of the most fastest increase in waste stream in the world, especially in the developing country in the past 20 years. So I think everybody have some special insight to feeling about the e-waste. Maybe for all of you, you have some special e-waste, or some is the waste, the mobile phones, or some is the computer in your home, stayed in your home. But especially in China, China is the leading e-waste generator in the world. So every year, currently the general e-waste about, I think it's 12 out of the 15 million tons. And this the amount is also increasing very faster. About is the 2040 to reach the peak. So that is the situation for some of the e-waste generation especially in China, because China is the largest with the e-waste generators. We're concerned about that. This is one concern. About the second one, so e-waste is the, sometimes we call it urban mass, because it contains so many the valuable resources of the precious metals. For example, in the e-waste, some is the different components. They contain some is valuable metals like the coppers, or like this the gold and the silver. You find this very rich. So that is called the urban mass. So urban mass could be replaced the natural mass or geological mass for the resource use in demand in the future. At the meantime, it's the e-waste use some of the critical metals. For example, like the gold. This gold, it could be used the electronics. But every year we use the urban mass every year. It's 2,000 tons. It's only about 12% for the electronic use. But however, this is our reserve, underground resources reserve cannot support just maybe 45 years left. It means 45 years later, then will be no some of the reserve of the gold in this world. This is the situation to accelerate some of the depleting of critical metals. At the meantime, e-waste is toxic. E-waste contains some of the high metals, like the lead, like this the mercury, like this the barometer flame retardant. So this means we should to concern about one side is the so many precious metals, valuable metals, but also they contain some of the toxic material in the past way. So as the informal recycling in China, we find the pictures about 20 years ago. So that is use the informal recycling like this open burning, like this the leaching. So this way, some is the toxic material to stock up the environment or the riverside to cause some environmental disaster or some ecological risk. So that we will talk about is how to make the e-waste management, a sound management, like this the WEE, waste, electrical and electronic equipment. So in the previously, some this the e-waste flows One is the manufacturing to flows to the formal dismantling companies, from families to discarding, then old for new for the policy, then go to formal dismantling. And a little about go to the individual collector, and allow to think about enterprises, then go to repairing, or some is the second-hand market, or some is go to the informal dismantling companies. About 20 years ago, there is mostly, I think it's mostly, for some is the e-waste just flow to the informal recycling or informal dismantling the company with a little illegal importation. So we get it, it's reported China is deal with about 70% for the global e-waste dumping, recycling or disposal. So this is for the flows. So it means if we want to make the e-waste sound management, then it's just a transfer from the informal dismantling to go to the formal dismantling. This is for the general problem. And in the global ways, we find some of this the e-waste the flows. This also is about 10 years ago. We get the information about the global way. We find some is the e-waste flows from the developing countries to developing countries, like from the Europe to go to the West African countries, and from the like this the North America to go to the South America, the Brazil, and some of this go to the from the, maybe go to the China or from Japan or from this the South Korea, other countries. So this is for the global flow of e-waste, then to make some of this the e-waste or some of the environmental disaster for the developing countries. So how to improve this the e-waste? How to make this the environmental sound management? That's the international problem. So basically, if we want you to make the e-waste management, then firstly to control the e-waste from the informal to formal. So it means to ensure all the e-waste could be collection. So collection is the first impounding procedure. It's in China, especially after maybe 20 years created, there's the main collection channels. For example, individual collectors like use the the small vehicle, and the second-hand market. Maybe you can go to some of this in China, like the Beijing, Shanghai, or Shenzhen to find the second-hand market. They also have the play those to collection the e-waste, and for old for new policy, repair stop. And like today, some bodies use the internet plus and use special app, like this the dust the UN and collaborate with the Baidu to develop special the app to finalize the collection. And also in China, some special the enterprises to get is the collection your different channels like the home collections, old for new, and internet plus with different some is the enterprises. And the second one, when the enterprises take back for the e-waste, let's think about how to improve the recycling rate. The important for the technical efficiency. It means to improve the advanced the processes, especially the e-waste could be dismantling or disassembling to get some of the printing circuit board, lithium battery, screen display, then dismantling again or further dismantling after physical separations, and again for the further recovery, like the leaching, or like this hydrometallurgy, or like smelting, like the pyrometallurgy together with fine metals, or some of the new product. This is for the global recycling process. But for the first one, number one is popular in the developed countries. Number two is popular in the developed countries. So it's quite different for in the two words. And this is for the China adventures for the e-waste management in China. So we focused on for the e-waste about before the year 2000. That belong to the improper dismantling phases, use the e-reburning and leaching. After the year 2000, we belong to the national pilot. And maybe from the years 2009, for new policy is coming. And after the use of 2 years, and from the 2012, Chinese weed regulation and roast regulation come going to enforce together. And maybe from the 2020, we go to the sound management. This is for the general adventures of China e-waste management, basically the process. In the past 20 years, China make so many regulations and policies related to the e-waste, especially for the mostly important is China V is the most important, like the regulations for the administration of recycling and treatment for the WEEE. And the second one important for the catalog of WE recycling, batch 1 and batch 2. And in this year, Chinese government and Ministry of Ecological Environment to improve some of the special for the subsidy standards for the WE funding. So this is for the Chinese e-waste legislation system from the catalog plans, permit, information term, and funding together. Basically, the mostly the economic cost is the funding system. So here is to give the adventures before the year 2000 belong to the informal recycling. This is for the use the primitive technology without some of the safeguard and the environmental human health. So here is for the maybe 20 years ago for the e-waste recycling. This is the landscape. It's open burning and very easy to release the environmental health. Public health, the risk. And at that time, China is not only the largest producer and consumer of electronics, but also this country are the most seriously polluted from illegal e-waste importation and informal recycling. After the year 2000, the Chinese government released the situation to make out the national pilot for companies. And this is the situation for at that time. This is the Chinese recycling companies situation. You can find is the open manual dismantling is very popular. And to talk about at that time, where we need to start for the most developed country, the focus on the in landfill and incineration with so many recycling facilities to concern environmental high environmental concerns. But in developing countries, they most to focus on recycling second hand, but the lack of environmental laws and enforcement. So this is the two words have different solution or different this is the process. So where we need to start? That is the question we requested about 20 years ago. So about this, that 20 years, Chinese government or Chinese so many university to develop some special technical process, also to make up some of the policy and regulations at that time. So this is for the two slides for some of the special, this is the processes. And this is for currently, this is the recycling process. Some of the labor is also involved. But more and more, these devices and the equipment, automotive equipment are being involved together. Eventually, so share of the e-waste. This is for the basic situation in the past a few years. So you can find that the e-waste the e-waste have different share in the e-waste recycled. So currently, it's even more, half of it belongs to the television. But another the electronics go up together. So we find that the global loop technical system is emerging So finally, we know is the e-waste at the end of life, it could be for reuse, remanufacturing, recycling, or recovery to realize the closed loop recycle the supply chains. Second one, we know the e-waste recycling industry in China. Chinese government have created more than 100 licensed and certificate enterprises. They belong to the formal recycling around in China, from the south to the west, to the south to the east, also to the north to the south. So this is for the distribution in the map. We also find that e-waste urban mining is becoming more cost-effective than vertical mining. What that means? It means if we get resources of the common metals or coppers of the precious metals, it's much cheaper to get the metals from this e-waste, not from the underground resources, underground mineral. So this inspires us to move from the vertical mining to urban mining for the e-waste. And here we get some to compare China, US, and EU. China have reached the level about the US and the EU for the recycling rate. You can find this the data, and research performance about is 30% for the formal recycling material. And you get it is very distinct for the environmental performance. Here is for the summary for the experience. Most effective regular cost is about the out for new policy, and we produce a pay funding. And the second one, environmental emissions and the management costs have been internalized. So China also it would have been feasible to try to duplicate other countries' experience or process to use for China. So then last one is management system is very important to support our industrial and finalize the sound management. But also we find some of this the imbalance. So the first one, after this several years, so we can get the first one we find is living from producer, and this one is for the maintenance subsidy for the recycler. It means the producer, when, for example, when one producer to generate 1 unit TV, they could pay money $2 for the government. The government uses the levy from this producer then pay this money for the recycler. But to pay for the recycler, this money could be $10. So this is for the very huge gap. This huge gap could be will be afforded by the government. Then make a very high pressure for the economic pressure for the government. So it means imbalance between fund levies, the subsidies may lead to unsustainable funding policy. This is the biggest lessons current from this China. But in recent years, Chinese government realized the situation. They just to adjust for the urban cities. You can find that this is 1 unit subsidy for the recycler. This is for the about 10 years ago. It's a start, but generally about in the 2015 or 2021. So that is the subsidy from this the government is go down for the recycler. So it means they just want to mitigate the gap from the producer to the recycler. This is for the solution 1. Producer procedure of the subsidy utilization. Currently, this is the procedures is a very long procedure. Tedious procedures related to the auditing operations and disciplining to the civil subsidies have decreased the efficiency of the payment system. So it means after this garment, like SAT customer, they get this money from the producer importer. Then to make this money and with the state minister of the financial to make the financial account. So this is the recycling. After recycling e-waste, this e-waste could be confirmed by the Minister of Environmental Protection for the local EPB to confirm. Then submitting this information for the Minister of the Financial. Finally, the financial government will send this money to the recycler. But this is the process with very long time, maybe 12 to 18 months. I remember maybe in recent years, more than 2 years or 3 years. So it means to decline this is the incentive of the recycler for the e-waste. Expanding on the e-waste recycling industrials, it means e-waste for the recycling industrials technology the technology have been fully transferred, utilized. And the eco-design is not pressed very well because currently not only very few large the e-waste producer is involved in the e-waste recycling. So it means most recyclers, they don't understand, they don't know very detailed, very clearly for the e-waste component. This is the composition. So that will be declined there, the e-waste recycling, the processes. And also for the new catalog, because we know from this, the 2015, some of the new catalog coming, but no special the funding policy or regulation on them. So finally, we try to give some special solution for the e-waste problem. According to China, in the past 20 years, e-waste is very sensitive to the policy. Firstly, we control. Control it means, and control it means we can to control with the regulations, with the laws. It means if one country want to make the e-waste sound management, they should have very completely some of these the laws or regulations. If no laws, if no regulations, they cannot. So this is the regulations, the laws could be for the control way. Second one, out is alternative to reduce or to replace the primitive technology to develop some advantage the technology. So it means the technology, the process is very important. It means e-waste recycling could be used very advanced processes to improve the environmental protection. Lastly, delete. Delete is means most for the eco-design. It means for the electronics could be eco-design to remove or delete some of the toxic material involved for the manufacturing processes. At the meantime, delete also the detoxification. At the end of life, the detoxification is also very important. So it means to solve the e-waste problem, they could be supported by the control, alter, and delete working together to support for e-waste sound management. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Jones. Thank you for your presentations. So in summary, Professor Jones has discussed about how the e-waste management has developed in China, starting from the informal recycling facilities, and that creates a lot of pollution problems, and then they're moving toward the formal recycling facilities by introducing law and regulations, and also they also have a financial incentive to promote recycling in terms of like levies and subsidy as well. And then he's also discussed about the eco designs, which he referred to as the the deleted process, right? So he said that there are three commands like controls that use the law and regulations. Then an alternative is the role of technologies, of recycling technologies, and the last button is the delete, where the eco-design has come into place. Okay, is there any questions from the floor? Okay, so Dr. Sujita has one question. So given the problem of funded models, will the Chinese government change the EPR model from the government fund to the full operation by the private producers? That is the questions. From the chat box, you can read the chat box.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Very wonderful. This is a very good question. So it means currently Chinese government is not so easy to change this the model, EPR the models, because it's Chinese government, especially the EPR model, that the Chinese government is the collecting the funding of getting this money from levy this money from the producer, and to levy this money to the recycler. So because China, I know in the developed countries like this, the Europe, they use the special PRO to support the EPR. Because at that the university, at that is the countries, they special is the industrials and societies and associations very strong. But in China, association and the special this is very poor. It's not very strong. It cannot have this powerful to get the money and to pay for the recycler. It's like the middle. So because this middle entity is very strong by the government, so Chinese government just finish this roles for this getting money and pay money for the recycler.
Okay.
Current not, but in future maybe. Okay.
Okay. There's another question from the audience. So could you please explain more about the internet and APP, the app on slide number 13? Can you be a little bit more elaboration on that? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Internet Plus and the APP is the program. Is very fashionable this years. I think maybe about a few years ago, it's not so popular, but currently I think it's most is young generation. They just started this APP of the mobile phones. They can to tell this information about maybe for the old one is very they want to send back. So when they report information, they can maybe one day or also a few hours later, somebody just request you about to take back this one and pay a few money. This is for the general the approach. Sometimes, but most popular in China. I know maybe Aroon or some in China, some is special. In the shopping, use some is the shopping. We just buy online shopping, so we can buy a new one with an old one. So also it belong to the Internet Plus. Use the APP. That's the old for new. As belong to old for new. Use the APP. It's a very good way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chun.
Yes, you are welcome.
I think right now that's all of the question right now. I'm sorry, I forget to introduce Professor Lai Jing properly. So allow me to introduce him again. So Dr. Chun is the Chief Technical Advisor of Basel Convention Regional Centers for Asia and the Pacific, UNEP. And he also has worked as technical advisor of UNDP, visiting professor at Macquarie University, and also Fulbright fellows at Yale Universities. So his area of specializations and interests include e-waste management, resource sustainability, and circular economy. Thank you very much for your presentations. And hopefully
You're welcome.
hopefully
You're
you can stay
welcome.
with
Okay.
us if there's any more questions that you could answer. Okay. But for now, thank you very much, professors.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. So up next, we have Dr. Barbara Sabas. He is an associate professor at Institute of Agriculture Extensions and Rural Development, University of Agriculture, Faisalabad, Pakistan. Okay. He has also served as a chair of outreach programs at U.S. Pakistan Centers for Advanced Study in Agriculture and Food Security Consultants for UNEP and visiting fellow at Sustainable Development Policy Institute, Islamabad. His experience includes rural development, food system, agricultural extensions, sustainable livelihood, and natural resources management. And today he will be speaking about food waste management in Pakistan's challenges, opportunities, and way forwards. Please welcome Dr. Barbara.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can you share my presentation?
Okay. So I'll let my staff share the presentation for you. Please wait a moment. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me.
Or if you allow me, I can share my screen, if possible.
Yeah, you can actually share that yourself.
Okay.
You can click share screen, and then.
Okay.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yes, that's perfect.
Okay, so
Yeah,
you can see the
perfect.
screen.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much, organizers of the conference. I'm really grateful that you have given me chance to present some of your work. So my name is Babar Shahbaz, as you have already introduced, and I will be presenting on the food waste management in Pakistan, challenges, opportunities, and ways forward. So first of all, food waste and food loss. Usually we use these words interchangeably, but there is some difference between food waste and food loss. Food loss is the decrease in the quantity and quality of food resulting from decision and action by food supply chain, excluding retail, food service providers, and consumers. So food loss is the loss of food occur at the initial stage of the food supply chain. And food waste occurs, it is basically decrease in the quality or quantity of food resulting from decision and action by retailer, food service provider, and consumer. So at the consumer level, whatever food is spoiled or wasted, it is food waste. And before reaching to the consumer or retailer, it is the food lost. And collectively, both of these terms lead to the food wastage. So food waste can occur. So my presentation is basically on the food waste. So food waste can occur at different stages. First of all is the fresh produce that deviates from what is considered optimal, for example, in terms of shape, size, and color. So this type of food waste occurs mostly for the fruit and vegetables. The fresh produce, if their shape and color is not good or consumers are not preferring that shape or color or size, then this type of produce is discarded and it goes to the waste. And second type of food waste is basically related to the best before date or expiry date. So that often discarded by the retailers and consumers. And the largest quantity of food waste is the edible food, which is the prepared or cooked food that is often unused or leftover or discarded from, for example, household kitchen or eating establishment from the food service industry. So these are basically three major types or major events where food waste occurs. So this can be the cooked food, which is leftover food from the food service industries or ceremonies, or it may be the food, fresh food, or the food which is packed food, which has been expired or which has been close to the expiry date. So this was a brief overview of why the food waste occur and what are the major types of food waste, and now why food waste management matters, why it is important to manage and reduce the food waste. First of all, the overall food system are contributing up to 80% of biodiversity loss. In fact, food production is the single major utilizer of the natural resources, the land, the water, the environment, and 80% of biodiversity loss occurs due to the food system, the food production system. And it consumes 70% of the fresh water globally. And in Pakistan, because Pakistan is an agricultural country, and here more than 85% of fresh water is consumed on the production of food. And it is the contributing 1/3 to the greenhouse gas emissions. And globally, in 2019, 931 million tons of food waste was generated. And now, recently, this figure has crossed 1.3 billion tons. 61% of total food waste come from the household, 26% from food service, and 13% from the retails. So food waste matters because roughly about 1/3 of food produced globally is lost or wasted. As you can see in this graph, in this diagram, that in all of the region of the world, the roughly 1/3 of the food is wasted, although in South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, the food waste is lowest. The food lost is higher, but the amount of malnutrition and hunger is highest in these two regions, Sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia. And therefore, the issue of food waste becomes a matter of serious concern, because food insecurity, malnutrition, hunger is highest in the poorest region of the world, and the food waste is also high in these regions. So food waste management matters because, as I said, that 700 to 800 million people around the globe are facing hunger and undernourishment. 1 in every 3 persons did not have access to adequate food in 2020. And 1 in 10% remain hungry every day. 2 billion people are suffering from micronutrient deficiency. So on one hand, more than 1/3 of global food is going to waste or lost. And the other side of the picture is that the malnourishment, hunger, and nutrient deficiency is very high in many parts of the world. So that's why the food waste management is important. And food waste management also important because Sustainable Development Goal 12 calls for ensuring sustainable production and consumption pattern. And particularly the target 12.3 of SDG 12 is about halving the world food waste at the consumer, retail, and household level, and also reducing the food loss by 2030, by the year 2030. So the world, according to SDG target 12.3, the world is committed to cut half of the global food waste by the year 2030. And also the very important SDG 2, zero hunger. So without the reducing or halving the food waste, maybe the target of zero hunger would be very difficult to achieve. So now this was the general overview, global overview of the food waste and food loss. And now I come to the Pakistan. In Pakistan alone, 36 million tons of food is wasted in Pakistan. And according to the study, 40% of cooked food is wasted in Pakistan, which is very high percentage. And according to another study, 30% of total municipal waste in big city comprised of the food waste, and 74 kg per capita per year household food waste. So this is one side of the picture, and the other side is that food insecurity is very high in Pakistan. 43% of the citizens remain food insecure, and 18% of Pakistan citizens are facing severe shortage of food. And according to the Global Hunger Index, Pakistan ranks as a country with serious hunger level. So this is a study conducted some year back about the municipal waste in Karachi, which is the largest metropolitan city. And the study was conducted in low, middle, and high income classes. And during the different days of the week. And you can see that in the municipal waste, the food waste is highest. In any day, be it the Friday, Sunday, or in any household level, be it medium, low, middle, or high income class. So food waste is around 40 to 50%. And the second important waste is the plastic waste or the miscellaneous. So plastic waste also become high during the weekend because, of course, due to the packaging of food. Because during the COVID lockdown, as Dr. Memon has elaborated, that during COVID lockdown, the household takeaways and food packaging become very high, and therefore the plastic waste also increased. So food waste comprise 30% of the total municipal waste of Pakistan, and food waste is highest in middle income class of people, followed by low income and high income class. The biggest contributors to food wastage in Pakistan are highly perishable items like vegetable and fruit, followed by bakery item and dairy products. So food wastage occurs along the whole supply chain of the food. The primary production of food are agriculture, livestock, and fisheries. And then from here, the food goes to the production industries. So there it is the food loss, and then it goes to the distribution and the consumption, the food service industry, household, large scale catering industries. The whole supply chain of food, the food is lost or wasted. So for example, at the farm level, the food is lost at the harvesting, threshing, storage due to the insect attack, extreme weather condition, transportation problem. At the processor and distributor end, the food again is lost during processing, the grading, as I said, that due to the size and shape of perishable items, the food is discarded, spillage and spoilage due to the improper packaging, storing, and then at the wholesalers where the food waste occur, overstocking, poor storage, and the most of the wholesaler or the storage are very informal. There is very little options of the cold storage. So poor handling and the loss of quality. At the food storage industry, the highest amount of food waste occurs due to the large portion size. People take more food than required. It is wasted during the cooking, expiration, leftover food, and the consumer level, poor storage and handling, improper cooking, surplus food or plate waste. So this is the whole supply chain of food where food waste occurs and or the food loss occurs. So there are various, in fact, this is a very simplified picture of the supply chain, but the actual situation is very complicated. There are various chains within the food supply chain at the retail level. Some of the main supply chains where most of the food waste occurs are, for example, fruit and vegetable supply chain, dairy supply chain, meat supply chain, grain or cereal, oil crops and pulse supply chain. For example, I gave an example of the dairy supply chain, where according to a study, 12% of overall food waste is in the dairy supply chain. So dairy farm in Pakistan, most of the dairy supply chain is in informal sector. Only 3%, this is a bit old study, and now 10% of the dairy products goes to the formal sector and 90% of the dairy products go to the informal sector. So in the formal sector, it goes to the packaged milk or cheese and the powder milk retailer and consumer. So here food loss is food waste is a minimum, but more than 90% of the food of the dairy supply chain goes to the informal sector, where the milkman collect the milk informally from the farms, from the farmers, and it distribute on their motorbikes or on their like a vehicle to the retailers or the dairy shops, and then it goes to the consumer. So this is a whole supply chain of dairy where the food waste occurs at the different stages. So similarly, in the other similar situation is in the other supply chain where most of the chain is in the informal sector. So food waste occurs, particularly the cooked food waste occur in the wedding reception, which is the major contributor to the food waste, festivals, religious festivals, hotel restaurants, and the surge in food takeaway during the COVID, which is basically the food packaging waste. So now we come to the food waste management. What are the opportunities? What are the options? So there is the concept of sharing economy, and there is the concept of circular economy, and there are some green technologies from that we can manage the food, or we can redistribute, or we can circulate the food. So sharing economy, the concept is based on the peer-to-peer networking. Like we have the concept of shared vehicles, shared residences, for example, the transport service, people are sharing their transport. The similar concept is in the food sharing in terms of food banks and food sharing applications. Circular economy is reduce, reuse, recycle, we all know. And there are some conventional technologies like composting, converting food waste into the fertilizer or the biogas plant. But this conventional technology, this depend on the segregation of food, municipal waste into the organic and non-organic. So food has to be discarded separately. But in Pakistan, unfortunately, this is not the case. So first of all, I will discuss about the sharing economy. So the food banks. So there is a global food banking network. It is in the 44 countries. It is an informal, it is a sort of charitable, non-for-profit organization. So there are food banks in 44 countries and it is expanding. They distributed about 1 billion kg of food and grocery, leftover foods to the people, and 9 million people served. And they also use the digital app. How the food banks works. They collect the surplus food from the government commodities, farms, grocery, fisheries, manufacturing industry, consumers, product markets, and it goes to the food banks, from where through various means it is delivered to the people in need who want to have the food. So this is the concept of sharing economy, the food banks. And there is an initiative in Pakistan too, which is called as the RISK. So RISK means the food. So it is a Pakistan-based social enterprise with focus on the food waste and reduction. It has developed a business model for providing marketplace for food donor and food insecure household. The enterprise has connections with restaurants, caterers, bakeries, and charge minimal fees to take their excessive food and hence act as service provider for waste disposal. So they have different initiatives, like they share the surplus food, they provide school lunch to the needy children, they support the family, and they feed the hungry people. They have developed a database of the colonies or slums where the people, food insecure people or malnutritious people lives, and they collect food from the different businesses, food service industry, and distribute to the. So this is a simple model of the food bank. And in fact, they have joined the Cargill, which is the US company, and first ever food bank, namely Cargill Risk Bank. So they offer 4 major services to food insecure slum communities in Pakistan. Supply of food to the communities, identifying and delivering monthly food to the food insecure household, gathering and distributing surplus food to poor household, and social mobilization of youth from educational institutions to support activities of zero hunger and zero waste. So this is one example of the circular economy or sharing economy, that how surplus food can be redistributed. So another example is the mobile applications. So these applications are in place in many countries. In Pakistan too, there is application which is very new. It is still developing stage, which is called the sharing out. So it connects users with the local food business to share the surplus food. The restaurant and other food enterprise can post the pictures and retail detail of their surplus food, and the consumer can see the post, select and arrange a pickup. So there are some, so these are some of the examples of sharing economy. And I said, as I said that there are some conventional technologies like conversion of food into the fertilizer and the biogas, but for this food has to be segregated in the waste. And in Pakistan, there is almost no system of segregation of waste. So there are some regulations on the food wastage. For example, Punjab Food Authority has established a regulation, Disposal of Excess Food Regulation 2019. So Punjab is the largest province of Pakistan. So food operators and all those who manufacture food items for sale, transport, storage and distribution or trade or donate excess food to the donor. So this is a regulation. So these donations are then distributed among the underprivileged or food insecure household. So this is one regulation. And then other regulation is one dish rule during the marriage ceremony. So in Punjab province, there is a rule that during marriage ceremony, you can serve only one dish. So this is a rule, but implementation of this rule is not very good. So what are the barriers in the adoption of food waste management technologies? So first of all, lack of education and awareness, poor accessibility to technologies, because the most people working in the informal food industry, they have not very good education or computer literacy. Technology factors are there. Technologies have to be less complicated and affordable. Infrastructure and cost is high. Poor implementation of regulation, lack of effective monitoring and evaluation, lack of credible data. These are some of the barriers in the adoption of food waste management. So now what are the ways forward? Education and awareness, and globally there are best practices and technologies in the advanced countries. These has to be replicated into the developing countries. Incentives and subsidy mechanism has to be provided. Credible data on food waste. This is the major problem, because in Pakistan and like in many developing countries of Asia and Africa, the credible data on the type and amount of food waste is lacking. Sharing and circular economy, enhanced public-private partnership. So how we can move towards the circular and sharing economy? For food waste management in Pakistan, a circular economy for food waste management system would present additional economic and environmental benefit. Government have to properly adopt and apply this concept in the food system. So recently in September, we have the food summit conference, food summit by the United Nations. And in that summit, the government were considered the major actors in the circular economy and this food, particularly the food waste management system. And there is absence of robust legislation, robust data on the quantity and type of food waste is also needed. The existing food waste management practices, strategies are based on linear model and have negative impact on the environment. Solid waste management strategies in many cities have yet to prioritize, and segregation of food waste, a precursor to a circular economy, is very important, and legislation is required in this regard. Circular economy model would help to mitigate the greenhouse gas emission, particularly by decreasing the quantity of food that goes to waste. So there is need to map the stakeholders. So some work is, because there is very limited research work done on the food waste, and particularly in the context of different supply chains. So survey of stakeholder and actors in the food supply chain in the big city regarding reducing and managing food waste, recycling, and adoption of green digital technologies for food waste management is required. So we need case studies on technological solutions, policies and regulations. Their analysis is required, and sensitization and capacity building of stakeholders in the supply chain of food industry is required. So these are my some of my presentation. So if you have.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Sabas, for your presentations. So Professor has discussed the problem of food waste in Pakistan, and also point out the solutions, the sharing economy, the circular economy, and the role of green technologies. And he's also summarized the way forward. Like, we need to educate people more on the issues. We have to develop the technologies to attacking the food waste. And currently in Pakistan, there's a lack of robust registrations and the data. So actually that's happened in Thailand as well. So one question I would like to address is that I'm interested in the registration in Punjab city. So basically that law required all the retailers to donate food to the people in need. So is there any penalize if they're not doing that, or this is like a voluntary basis?
Yeah, still its implementation is voluntarily. It is a regulation. Still it has to be made a law. So it is a regulation. So at least it is a first step that the food service industry, they have to donate the excess food rather than putting into the dustbin. So still its implementation requires to be enforced. As of now, it is voluntary.
Okay. So is there any clause that provide like immunization for the food donor for any liabilities that may caused by the food donations? Let's say that if there is like a food poisoning problems from the donors, so are they protected by the laws or things like that?
Yeah,
Because
so far there is no such law for the. But yeah.
Okay, because I heard that in Philippines they have like this clause where they waive the liabilities for the food donors. Yes. Okay, so there's one question from the participants. So will the central government issue any regulations on food waste management and incentive for surplus foods and the food banks?
Well, in fact, it is at the provincial level because in Pakistan, we have decentralized system. The provinces are they are free to make their own regulations.
Okay.
So the central government, they can issue some guidelines, and within these policy guidelines, the provinces, for example, the central government, they are for the SDG 12 and SDG 12.3, they have given the guideline, and the provinces can make their own regulations. So far, the regulations are being made in the Punjab province, which is the largest province, more than 60% of the population in the Punjab. So there is, as I said, that during marriage ceremonies, you cannot serve more than one dish to avoid the food waste, and another regulation that I just talked about. So these are mostly at the provincial level.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much for your response. Okay. So let me see. So there's one question from the audience that, so you mentioned about the sharing economy, so like food bank and things like that. So the question was, is there any like specific measures, the type of the policy about the sharing economies in Pakistan?
Yeah, there are some initiatives, as I said, that there is a food bank, there are some food sharing applications, but the policy, this is the regulation, this is the first step.
Okay.
But still, as I said, that there are various barriers, like the implementation of regulation, the sensitization of people, capacity building of the stakeholders along supply chain. So when they know that there is a system and there are some regulations and there are some penalties if you are wasting your food and throwing in dustbin, then it can grow. The concept of sharing economy can further grow. So now it is at the very initial stage.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Professor Sabas. Hopefully you can stay with us longer. So if there's more question about food waste, I can address that to you. But for now, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, up next, we have Mushtaq Memon. He is an economist and specializing in environmental policy, especially waste management and recycling in Asian countries. Currently he has two positions. First is the chief senior research at the Institute of Developing Economies, the Japan External Trade Organization, or JETRO. And the second one is the research fellows at Economics Research Institute for Asians and East Asia. Okay. He has also contributed to the field of international cooperations as a member of expert working groups of environmentalist sales management under the Basel Conventions and member of technical expert committee for green industry platforms by UNEP. He will be presenting about the circular economy for plastics, good practices in Japan. Please welcome Mr. Kojima.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to talk about good practices in circular economy for plastics in Japan. So, Yeah, let me, yeah. At first, I would like to introduce circular economy laws on plastics in Japan. We have a few recycling law recycling law in Japan, and in this presentation, I focus three laws. One is Act on Promotion of Effective Utilization of Resources, which was enacted in 1991. And also Containers and Packaging Recycling Act, enacted in 1995, and the Act on Promotion of Resource Circulation for Plastics. It was how to say, the enacted recently. Yeah, Act on Promotion of Effective Utilization of Resources, which was enacted in 1991. And these regulations require producers put some labeling on materials of containers and packages for source separation. And also they specify some industry to use recycled material or reused parts, such as the manufacture of PVC pipe and copying machine industries. And the pictures shows a kind of a label of PET bottles, and yeah, this number one PET, it indicate the how say, the PET is the bottle is made from PET. And regarding cap and the labels, they indicate the cap is made from polypropylene and label is polystyrene. So they have this kind of the how say, the labeling should be attached to the PET bottles. So such kind of the how to say, requirement was imposed by this act. Next, Containers and Packaging Recycling Act. EPR is applied to container and packaging pack from municipal waste, and the local government has responsibility to of collection, and some responsibility of waste container and packages generated by industries are put on the generators themselves. And this act target items are these package and containers, including cans and glass bottles, PET bottles, and other plastic containers and packages. Role of consumers is to sort in accordance with sorting categories set by local government, and the local government have a kind of sorted collection, and the producers has a responsibility of recycling somehow. So producers pay recycling fee to the designated organization, and the recycling fee is determined through the tender process. And the designated organization conducts tender to determine recyclers whom will treat the collected collected waste containers and packages. So under this scheme, the central one, the designated organization route. So consumers have a kind of source separation, and the municipalities collect plastic container and packages and other container packages, and they send to recyclers. And recycler is determined in the kind of tenders process, and between the designated organization and recyclers. So they have a kind of a tender process, and producers, specified business entities, should pay the recycling fee to designated organization. So this is a main kind of route of the Package and Container Recycling Act. So most of the plastic package and containers are recycled in this stream. But there are two other kind of the different scheme also. Own collections route is consumers send the sorted plastic waste to the municipality collect it, and they send to recyclers. Mainly the recyclers located in these municipalities. And if the approval, how say, entire route is approved by a competent ministries, then specified business entities pay the kind of have a recycling contact with recyclers also. So the producers support such kind these kind of recyclers. The third one is self-collection route. So this one, the producers themselves have organized a kind of collection program. So consumers dispose the kind of specific items of the plastic containers and packages to retail stores. So when consumers buy some how say, some foods and so on with the package and containers, they also bring the used or waste package and container to retail shop, and retail store collect the such kind of the package and container, and they send to the actually specified business entity, producer itself collect such kind of waste. So this route is should be also approved by select business entity, how say, approved by the competent ministries. Okay, and next. Act on promotion of resource circulation for plastics. This act was recently enacted June 2021, and which will be enforced on April 1st, 2022, so next year. The purpose is to contribute to the conservation of the living environment and the sound development of national economy by promoting recycling of plastic resources. So in the past, package and container recycling act only focused package and containers, but this act tried to cover some other plastic items, plastic products such as bucket, hanger, toy, and stationery. So, and also this regulation has a kind of the give authority to the government about to reduce the single-use plastics, and also they have a kind of a guidelines for design for environment. So next section, I would like to show some good practices in Japan. The first one is to reduce the single-use shopping bags in Japan. One of the campaign to reduce single-use shopping bag was started in 1961 by Consumer Union in Hokkaido. At that time, probably it's not a plastic bag, probably the paper bags. But anyway, such kind of a movement was started in 1960s. As a supermarket started to give an incentive for buyers to bring their own bag instead of single-use shopping bag in 1974, and gradually such kind of a movement in how say spread to entire national in Japan. But even in early 2000, the how say refuse rate of single-use single-use shopping bags are around above the 10%, but less than 20%. But gradually, such kind of the refuse rate increase in 2000, early 2010, early 2010s, and in July 2020, mandatory charging of plastic shopping bag was enforced by the government. The exemptions are made for a plastic shopping bag which thickness is more than 50 micrometers, which are biodegradable, or at least 25% made consist of biomass plastics. So these are exemptions. So the shops can give these kind of plastic shopping bag to the customers freely, but otherwise they should charge to deliver the give the plastic shopping bag. So after this regulation, the diffuse rate of single-use shopping bag increase a lot, so it exceed 70%. Another good practice is design for recycling. This is a case of PET bottles. So, such kind of a design for recycling were, how to say, developed by the voluntary initiative by Japan's Council for PET Bottles Recycling. They create a kind of a guideline for design of PET bottles, such as PE or PPP, PP, which polyethylene, polyethylene, which gravity less than 1 should be used for caps in order to sort caps from PET. Prof is the coloring of PET because waste PET with color has limited demand of recycling. It is also recommended to have a perforation, so easy to cut the to remove the labeling. They should make a perforation on the label. So there are kind of English version of voluntary standards, so you can check it also. So in 2020, Japan's collection rate of PET bottles is 96.7%. And among them, bottle-to-bottle recycling rate is about 32% of total recycling. So other kind of recycle, PET bottles recycling is going to the like fibers or textile. So this is a good practices of the design for recycling. And the next one is we need to ensure the demand of recycled products. To do that, government try to make industrial standard for recycled plastics products. So together with industries, they try to create various kinds of the industrial standard for recycled plastics. And these kind of industrial standards are also used in the government procurement mechanism. So when they make a kind of construction kind of tenders, then they can the developers, construction companies should utilize such kind of the recycled plastic materials. So Japanese government made very many kinds of the industrial standard for recycled plastics products. The one of them prioritized PVC three-layer pipe with recycled core. So the outer layer and inner layers are made from the virgin PVC, but the core layer, which will not touch to the waters, are made from the recycled PVC. So So such kind of recycling standards are developed. And the another one is the wood plastic recycled composite, which is this is kind of the wood plastic recycled composite. So we have this kind of the materials industrial standard. So that the so to ensure the demand of recycled plastics, sometimes you need to develop this kind of industrial standards. The next good practice is styrofoam or expanded polystyrene or polystyrene paper tray. So in Japan, there are some recycling system to collect polystyrene paper tray and also expanded polystyrene like a fish box or home appliances kind of cushion materials for packaging. So we have such kind of the collection of the styrofoam. The first one is polystyrene paper tray for recycling. A voluntary collection box for PSP tray placed to some shopping centers, and consumers visit such kind of shopping centers. They bring the waste PSP tray, and the trucks deliver new PSP tray to the this kind of shopping centers, collect the waste PSP tray for recycling facilities. So they do not have any kind of the additional arrange of the collection of this kind of the waste PSP tray, and they how to say trucks deliver new PSP tray, bring back the waste PSP tray. And this self-collection route is a major kind of a route of the collection of the PSP tray for recycling. There are some kind of the designated bodies recycling route, which I already mentioned in the previous slide. And there are own collection route which are collected by local governments and sent to the recycling facilities also exist, but the main route of the collection of the PSP tray, it's a kind of a tray of styrofoam, which are collected by self-collection route. And regarding expanded polystyrene, the most of the EPS expanded polystyrene are used for containers like a fish box, and also cushioning materials and so on. And expanded polystyrene collected I would say in 1991. The collection rate is was about 20%, but the collection is increasing. I'm sorry, it's less than a little bit more than 10%. Its volume about 20,000 tons were collected among the 170,000 tons of the EPS. But gradually the rate of the how to say the volume collected by recyclers increasing. And recycling rate is reached about 90% around 2015. How to what is a mechanism? The expanded polystyrene or styrofoams is bulky, so to reduce the volume is very important. So technology to reduce the volume is crucial to transport bulky expanded polystyrene or styrofoam waste efficiently to recycling facilities. So compressing machines or kind of melting machines are introduced in the various fish market, like a Tsukiji fish market. I took these pictures, and this is a kind of a compressed EPS from the machine. So it become 1/50th of the original volume. So transportation cost can be reduced to the 1/50th. Then styrofoam can be sent to the recycling facilities. And another good practices is a shift from the conventional EPS floats to high durability floats. So some companies developed high durability floats, which are a little bit expensive compared with conventional EPS, but the period of service is much longer. So such kind of durability floats are available in Japan. And some housing. Fisheries Cooperative Association introduce such kind of high durability floats. Yeah, and we have some waste to energy plant and chemical recycling also, or RDF plant in Japan. So yeah, we have such kind of a technology, and some part of the plastic waste are going to such kind of a waste into energy plant or RDF plant or chemical recycling facilities. And to utilize a kind of a waste to energy plant in rural area or small municipalities, in Japan, many municipalities make a kind of the association, partial affairs associations. Then they have a kind of how to say, they can utilize economies of scale in waste to energy plant. So they may able to contract with private sectors also. So such is I heard that Thai has a clustering policy. Uh, Such kind of effort conducted in 1960s and 1970s in Japan. So at that time, many municipalities tried to join or accumulate the association or cluster to jointly operate a waste to energy plant and so, RDF plant and others. And I don't have much time, but we have a source separation program also, and some local government impose a volume-based waste collection fee, and which generate a kind of incentive to put the how say the citizens dispose the how say plastic and containers separate collections. I mean mixed how to say mixed waste, general household waste, plastic, the the price for this general general waste is much higher than the plastic containers and package collection bag. So such kind of the difference of the charge of the collection fee give a kind of incentive for consumers to separate properly the plastic waste. So there are some kind of the collection system, and there are some English kind of the guidebook for how to separate waste. So you can check the some English booklet or guidebook on the separation in Japan. So that's my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, professors.
Yeah.
Okay. So Professor Kojima has give us various examples of good practices about plastic recycle in Japan. In Japan has been implementing like registrations on containers and packaging recycle act, and also have like financial incentives, like for example in Sendai cities, they have a volume-based collection fee, and also campaigning about educations about how to segregate the recycle waste as well. So this is my question is exactly at this PowerPoint slides. So it's interesting to me that the refusal rate has been going up even before the mandatory measures in July 2020. So what happens to, can you explain why like Japanese people start to like refusing using the single-use shopping bag? And also one question from the floor is that, so if they refuse using the single-use shopping bag, so what type of like bag that they use for substitute?
Yeah, the substitute is many people use their own bag. I mean, they have a kind of a textile or kind of a shopping bag they use. So I also bring some my bag to the to go to when I go to the shops. So that is yeah, that is the so many people use their own own bags right now. So that's the rate. Regarding the increase in the how say increase the refuse rate increase in around 2010, it's a kind of campaign by the local government, and also the some shops also try to introduce the how say they give us some points, and if
I see.
they have 5 points or 10 points, they can discount a little bit somehow. So shops or yeah, shops give us some incentive for consumers to bring their bags. So that was a kind of the movement in late 2000s and early 2010s. But the refuse rate stabilized in the mid of the 2010s. So government introduced kind of mandatory the charge of the single-use plastic bags.
So in your opinion, you still think that mandatory measure is like the key to
Yeah,
really...
but yeah, the voluntary measures also work somehow, and but there are some limits. So that's why government introduced the mandatory charge. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question from the participants. So they would like to know more about the volume-based fee. So is there any other city that offer like a smaller size than like a 45 liters size of the bag?
Yeah. Yes. They have a small size also. So it depends on the municipalities. They basically how say specify the specific plastic bag, and the consumers should buy, households should buy this kind of shopping bags, and the some budget is how say used for the waste management. So that is not how say. Of course, the cost of the waste treatment is much higher. So only some part of the budget is coming from the sales of this kind of plastic bag. So, but they try to differentiate the how say mixed waste and the bag for waste plastic and containers and the packages. So the price is lower. So consumers try to separate properly for this kind of recycling. And one of the challenge is big cities like Tokyo. Tokyo cities, there are so many foreigners coming, or some how say the populations how say they some students are coming from outside to the Tokyo, so they may not be able to follow the regulations, and so how to say, the big cities are a little bit difficult to implement such kind of activities. But medium sized and small cities and rural area, they are trying to introduce such kind of scheme.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Another question is that, so what is the rationales for introducing the biodegradable plastic shopping bags, since the collection system in Japan is already measures? I think, I mean, like, I interpret the question like the recycling rate is very high already. It's why you still need to have this biodegradable plastic shopping bags being
Yeah.
introduced.
Yes. Yeah. Still somehow the how to say, yeah, plastic shopping bag can be found in coastal area or marine environment. So sometimes, I had also experience that I took the some products from the plastic shopping bag, but at that time plastic bags are thrown away by wind, and
Okay.
I cannot pick up. It was very strong wind, so then such kind of plastic bags going to the environment, or like sometimes yeah. Anyway, the plastic can be found in
Okay.
the rivers or ocean or beaches. So that is why they try to reduce
Okay.
somehow. Yeah,
All right. Okay.
yeah.
Two more questions. Another question is that for the Japanese case, actually, the citizen need to rinse and return the used packagings to the facilities. So what are the incentives for them to do that? Like
Yeah,
to have a troubling like rinsing all
yeah.
the plastic waste and
Yes,
return it
yeah.
to the.
Yeah, they clean up they wash this kind of tray,
Yes.
and they bring back to the shops. Yeah, the incentive is that some of the cities already introduced the kind of volume-based collection fee, but this one is free. So you don't need to pay for dispose this kind of tray if they bring
Okay.
back the tray to the shops. That is an incentive. And also, even they do not have how say, municipalities do not have introduced volume-based collection fee. Some citizens are aware that this kind of shopping bags can be recycled. So voluntarily, they dispose the waste, they bring back their waste to the shopping centers. So that is a another, even municipalities do not impose volume-based collection fee. Some consumers contribute to the recycling of this kind of PSP tray.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Another question is a little bit more technical. So how do plastic incinerations make low pollution in Japan? Do they use catalysts for plastic depolymerizations?
Okay. Yeah. Waste to energy plant. They had a in the past they had a kind of difficulty to treat plastics, but the waste to energy plant technology is improved, and they have some pollution control equipment, and also I think they do not use such kind of the monopol how to say you mentioned that technology, but they try to control the how to say I heard that the key technology is after the burn and you have you should have a high enough temperature and you should have cooling rapidly. So if you cool the smoke rapidly, then the generation of dioxin or toxic substances can be reduced. So, and also they try to remove such kind of the ashes also. So there are some combination of technology to reduce pollutants. Yeah.
Okay, that addressed all the questions, Professor Kojima. Thank you very much for your great presentations.
Yeah, thank
and
you very
all
much for
the
your question.
answers.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. So let's move on to another speaker. So the next speaker is Mei Ling Tung. Okay, the Singapore, he will be, she is the Deputy Director of Department of Sustainability Strategies at the National Environmental Agencies. She looked at developing a longer-term strategies and driving sustainability efforts in waste management, energy efficiency, and climate change. Okay, this include policies to manage priorities waste streams such as packaging waste, including plastic and food waste, as well as building industry capacity through partnership and program to support the sustainability initiatives. She will be talking about Singapore Resource Sustainability Act and its role toward circular economies. Please welcome Ms. Mei Ling Tung.
Thanks, Prof, for the kind introduction. Can I just check? Can you hear me?
Yes, you can share your screen.
Okay, great. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
So maybe I'll start.
Perfect.
So again,
yes.
Great.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mei Ling from Singapore. First of all, I would like to thank Pro-Green and UNEP for inviting me to share about Singapore's Resource Sustainability Act and then its roles towards circular economy, as well as what we are doing as part of our effort to move towards a zero waste nation. I think the earlier presenter have also shared extensively on the e-waste, food waste, and plastic waste management. So I'll keep my presentation simple. So I'll start by giving a background of Singapore's situation and the constraints that we have. I'm pretty sure many of you are familiar that we are just a little red dot on the map with a land area of slightly more than 700 kilometers square. So the rate of waste growth is really one of our major concerns. So from the graph, you can see that the increasing population and GDP growth have increased the amount of waste disposed of about 7-fold over the past 40 years. So being small, the scarcity of our land also poses another challenge. So with competing needs over, say, housing, transport, every plot of land needs to be carefully planned and allocated. So we only have one offshore landfill, which is the Semakau landfill, and it's only projected to last about a decade or so. So if the rate of waste generation continues, we'll have to identify or go and find a new landfill every 30 to 35 years, which is not sustainable. So let's look briefly at what happens to the waste generated in Singapore each day. So we do have about 16,000 tons of waste generated daily by the industrial and commercial premises as well as household in Singapore. So licensed waste collector will send the recyclables and waste to the respective recycling and waste disposal facility. So if you look at in terms of the overall percentage, about 52% of our waste is being recycled. About 45 is incinerated at the waste to energy plant, and the rest of the non-incinerable waste are being sent to our landfill. So really, we need to cope with the constant increasing volume of waste over the years. So we have enhanced our waste management system and to move towards really a zero waste nation. So to do this, we have adopted 4 strategies. The first one is minimization and prevention of waste at source. through the promotion of efficient use of resources in the production process, as well as reduce wastage at home. Second is through recycling, where we can maximize the resource recovery from waste and also encourage a producer to adopt better recycling methods from themselves. Third is through our waste treatment method of waste to energy, where we adopt innovative technology to maximize energy recovery, minimize the ash generated, and also the land use. And then finally, to minimize the waste that's sent eventually to our landfill, one of the areas that we have looked into is to come up with alternative use for ash. So this can help us to maximize our landfill lifespan. So achieving our vision of a zero waste nation really requires partnership with the people, the public and the private sector. So as such, our zero waste master plan that was launched in 2019 was developed through a co-creation process. We have set for ourselves ambitious target to extend the landfill of the lifespan of our landfill to beyond 2035. Reduce the amount of waste that was sent to the landfill by 30% by 2030. And this is really on top of our target to reach a 70% overall recycling rate. But we know that we can't achieve this target alone. Hence, we do need businesses and individuals to also play their part. And then we believe that this is achievable if we manage to accomplish what was being set up in the master plan. So Singapore, as an economy, we also launched the Singapore Green Plan 2030 earlier this year. So it charts concrete and ambitious sectoral plans and target in the 5 pillars that you see in the slides over the next decade. So it will position us to achieve a net zero emission as soon as viable, and also strengthen our commitment to global sustainability development and also climate action efforts. So if you see under the sustainable living pillar, which is about saving resources and energy, a way of life, we have further stretched our existing target by reducing the amount of waste sent to landfill by 20% by 2026, and subsequently by 30% by 2030. And we do know that adopting a circular economy approach to close our resource loop, turn waste into treasure, is one of the ways to do so. And I think similar to many economies, we have framed our thinking of a circular economy along the lines of sustainable production, sustainable consumption, and sustainable waste to resource management. And to actually change from a take, make, use, and throw, which is a linear approach, into a circular approach. So really, with this in mind, we have enacted the Landmark Resource Sustainability Act to give legislative effect to new measure to address our key priority waste stream, namely packaging waste, including plastic, food waste, and e-waste. This waste stream have relatively high generation and low recycling rate. In addition, e-waste itself also have potentially harmful substances that will negatively impact our health and environment when they are being disposed of improperly. So we feel that this Resource Sustainability Act, or RSA, is really an integral part of Singapore's strategy to build a sustainable, resource efficient, and climate resilient nation. So I'll elaborate a bit on our priority waste stream in the subsequent slide. So for e-waste, we have implemented the Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme, or EPR, on 1st July this year. I think EPR will be familiar to some of you. So under the EPR framework, producer will bear the physical and financial responsibility for the collection and proper end-of-life treatment of discarded regulated electrical and electronic equipment, or EEE in short. So for a start, we'll start with large producer of these 5 categories that you see on the left-hand side of the slide. These 5 product categories will cover about 90% of the consumer e-waste products in Singapore. So in GIS, they are selected based on 3 criteria. the potential impact to the environment, its generation volume, and the extent of public demand or visibility. So as part of scoping the regulated products, extensive consultation were conducted with the stakeholders. So in terms of responsibility, we have 3 groups, as you can see on the slide. The producer will be responsible for the collection and recycling of the e-waste. Producer of consumer EEE can fulfill this obligation by joining a producer responsibility scheme or PRS. Producer of non-consumer EEE would then have to provide free take-back service upon request and also properly recycle the e-waste that they collect. For us, NEA, we have appointed a PRS operator to coordinate the collection and proper treatment of consumer e-waste on behalf of the producer. The third group, the retailer, being the key touch points for consumer, will then have to provide free take-back services when they deliver new products, and large retailer will also have to provide in-store collection services. For instance, if they have a floor area above 300 meters square, they need to have an e-waste collection bin within the store. So moving on to packaging waste, this slide shows the overview of the initiative that we have to close the packaging loop. So under the Resource Sustainability Act, we have introduced new regulation on reporting that we require large producer of packaged products to report their packaging data as well as their 3R plans. I will elaborate a bit more in the next slide. So separately, we have an industry-led capability development program. The packaging partnership program that is set up is a partnership between us, NEA, and the industry association. This is really to support companies in fulfilling their reporting obligation, as well as facilitate the exchange of best practices in hope to help them level up and also adopt best practices in sustainable packaging waste management. So with all this foundation, we hope to introduce an extended producer responsibility scheme to manage packaging waste, starting with the beverage container return scheme. So as I was saying, under the mandatory packaging reporting framework, producer of packaged product, such as your manufacturer, importer, as well as retailers like supermarket, will be required to submit their packaging data and also their 3R plan, meaning to say their plans to reduce, reuse, or recycle their packaging, and this will be done annually to us. So for a start, the requirement will only be applied to producer of packaged product with an annual turnover of more than 10 million Singapore dollar. This is set so as to minimize the impact on the smaller and the micro enterprise and company. So I hope that this mandatory packaging reporting framework will allow companies to have greater awareness on the potential benefits for waste reduction within their business operation. At the same time, they can be motivated to take action to reduce the amount of waste or amount of packaging that's used, which will help to minimize waste generation at source. For the third priority waste stream, which is the food waste, under the Resource Sustainability Act, we will require owners and operator of commercial and industrial premises, because they are typically the large generator of food waste, to separate and treat their food waste from 2024 onwards. So these large premises will include your hotels, shopping mall, large industry development that have food manufacturer or caterers within them. So these generators will be allowed to choose the waste treatment method that best suit their operation. So for example, they can use an on-site food waste treatment system or send their food waste to an off-site facility for treatment. And also starting this year, we require developers of new large and commercial industrial premises where large amount of food waste are expected to be generated to allocate space for on-site food waste treatment in their design plan. So the adoption of on-site treatment system will allow for closed loop food waste management, because they generate the food waste on-site and then they treat it on-site. And then this food waste can be converted, say, into compost for landscaping purposes, or even wastewater for non-potable uses. And maybe I'll also share a bit about the building recycling capability, because to support our broader policy and strategy, we're also developing our local recycling capability. So in the area of plastic waste, we are adopting a circular economy, and closing our plastic or packaging loop will allow us to create downstream opportunity. So currently, Singapore has mechanical recycling plant to treat our industrial plastic waste. And similar, I think the Japanese presenter also mentioned that about chemical recycling. This is something that we're also pursuing as a solution to treat plastic that are not suitable for mechanical recycling. For instance, your contaminated plastic together with food or with other single-use plastic. Because we feel that chemical recycling can potentially convert this plastic into higher value product like pyrolysis oil, which can be used or upgraded as feedstock and put into a manufacturing process. So in this aspect, we are working closely with the government as well as industry partner to look into establish a pilot plant that will help to contribute and also anchor this chemical recycling value chain in Singapore within the next few years. Last but not least, we are also looking at the use of the incineration bottom ash that's typically sent to our Semakau landfill as building materials in non-structural application, and we coin this new sand. So we feel that this is a crucial piece, as successful use of this ash as a material will help reduce the waste residue that's sent to our landfill, thereby helping us to prolong the lifespan of our landfill. And yes, this concludes my presentation, and I hope you have a better understanding of the waste management system in Singapore, and a welcome question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Tung, for the presentation about the overall pictures about waste management, including e-waste, plastic and food waste in Singapore. Okay, and so we have a couple of questions from the audience.
Sure.
So the first one is actually it's in the chat box. So do producers have to provide a free pickup of large appliances, such as refrigerator from households, or consumers have to deliver that by themselves to the designated locations?
Okay, so producer, okay, in Singapore, we do not really have a local producer. I mean, as you may know, most of our stuff are imported. So the retailers, for instance, you know, those electrical shop that you buy your products from, if you are more than 300 meters square, you do need to provide a designated e-waste collection bin. So that, for instance, I can actually go down there and deposit my small items like my lamps and my bulbs or my battery. So for big items like how the fridges and the aircon, there's no way for me to bring that. So what retailers need to do is that when I buy something from this retailer, they deliver the new fridge to my place. They're supposed to take back the old one from me. And then after taking back, they are obligated to send it to a licensed recycler to make sure that, you know, it's properly recycled. Yeah. So it's not really the producer, but it's the retailers that have to provide these free pickups.
Okay, so the retailer is responsible, okay, for the product. So the second question is related to the first question, like existing producers responsible for the office appliances from the out of business producers?
Out of business producers, you mean producers that are no longer in
business, maybe, yeah.
Okay, so for instance, what the producer actually needs to do for consumer equipment is they have to join a producer responsibility organization. So we appointed someone. So under the producer responsibility obligation, you're supposed to pay a fee because you're supposed to be financially so-called responsible. So for instance, you pay a fee today, and maybe 3 years down the road, for whatever reason, you're out of business, the fee has been paid, and then the operator is supposed to make sure that whatever you place in the market today gets recycled 3 years or 4 years down the road. Yeah. Okay. So whatever they need to pay are things that they are putting into market today, so that this will finance whatever so-called e-waste that's being generated when the equipment reaches the end of the lifespan. Hope that addressed the point. Okay.
So regarding the food waste, that laws require that the big facility must have like a food waste facility on site. Is there like a government subsidies provide like funding for supporting to build these type of facilities, or this must be like pay off their own pocket. Like that.
So thanks for the question. So if you realize that in my presentation, I mentioned that it will start from 2024 because it's to tie in with the operation of our on-site treatment facility. So what we are currently doing is that while we are waiting for the law to take place, we're encouraging people to actually adopt food waste segregation. And we do provide incentive and funding if you choose to actually have an on-site system and then to treat your food waste starting today. So that will help to actually move the industry for them to segregate and treat their food waste faster. Yeah.
Okay. So you mean they can apply for funding or something, or?
Yes, they can apply for funding today because the law hasn't kicked in yet, and then they can do voluntarily. We welcome them. But then once the law is in a couple of years' time, we may review whether there's a need for incentive lah. So we do encourage industry. If you're looking, you have space and you're looking to segregate your food waste, please come to us for funding. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So will Singapore have any like restriction on the single-use plastics consumptions in the future?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Yeah. So what is happening now currently is that we adopt a consultative approach. So earlier, I think last year, we have a citizens work group on reducing excessive disposable. So we view plastic bags, single-use straw, everything as disposable. And then we conduct a kind of citizens work group chat with members of the public. And then one of the recommendations is to look at having a charge on single-use carrier. So this is something that we are studying really seriously, looking at the pricing module, the pricing approach, like how much to charge. Is it 1 bag, 2 bag? So currently we are doing a public consultation, and hopefully sometime next year we could have something that is firm up for sharing. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So another question is regarding about the beverage containers returning schemes. So will that include plastic packaging like multi cups as well?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So I think a lot of countries, like if you look at European or even I think Pan Pacific, they do have a scheme called a deposit refund. So basically I buy a bottle of water and I pay say 10 cents or 20 cents. Then after I finish that, I return the bottle, I will get my deposit back. So such a model is something that we are also studying, looking at what to cover. For instance, Singapore, I think like Bangkok is very hot. Should we look at milk that will spoil easily? Or for instance, should we look at glass Tetra Pak? So currently we're doing a consultancy study together with stakeholder engagement to look at what is the scope, type of beverage I should cover, what is the scope, and more importantly, I think for people is what is the deposit that they have to pay. So this is something that we are also thinking of firming out the framework and probably implement it sometime in 2023 with everything set up. Yeah. Okay. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, so another question for myself. So currently, what is the garbage fee scheme in Singapore? It's like a fixed per month, or there varies by volumes like in other countries?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So it differs if you are a business or if you are a household. So I understand that for Japan, the household, they have tier, but for us, household, Singapore is a high-rise apartment, and then there's the landed, which is the house kind. So if you are there's two kind of tiering, a flat fee. If you are staying in those high-rise apartment, you pay one fee. If you're staying in this bigger house, the low one, you pay another flat fee. And then for businesses, it's a little different. I go by the volume of the container. So for instance, I have 60 liter, 230 liter, 160. So there's a charge for each of the size. Yeah, so we adopt quite a different approach. Because we are thinking that businesses, usually they are larger generator. So by having those volume based, you actually entice them to reduce their waste. Whereas for those staying in high-rise apartment or public housing, we have also to bear in mind that whether those lower income group, the more vulnerable groups, are they being covered? Yeah. So currently the price or the disposal fee are fixed as such.
Okay. So during the public hearing of this new act, was there any concerns from the businesses that they raised during the public hearings? Because that's typically the case for any law on an environment being implemented, because it's going to have an impact on the businesses.
Definitely. So in terms of carving or even coming out of the scope of the act, there's extensive consultation with key stakeholder group, be it especially the producer, because e-waste is the first one that we actually roll out the EPR. So to them, they actually matters to them that, how much is the producer fee? What is the model? Am I taking that on my own? So a lot of extensive consultation is being carried out. And also on the side of the public, they need to know that what is e-waste and what is not e-waste. I mean, some education is needed. So that part will also have certain consultation with them to make them understand why we are doing so. So it's a long process that I would say as part of enacting this, but it's an important step for us if you want to move towards, a sustainable or circular economy nation. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. That all the questions that I have right now at the moment. Thank you very much for your presentation, Ms. Thinh.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay. So thank you very much. Next, we will have another side of the story. So we will hear about the business initiatives from Thai businesses. So we'll start with Kun Arisala Sivatel. She is Kun Arisala is the Chief Executive Officer of the Sivatel Bangkok Hotel, which is a privately owned 5-star hotel that focuses on sustainable tourism. She's advocated for organic food productions and consumption, support organic food producer using Sivatel Bangkok Hotel platform to promote sustainable production practices. Sivatel Bangkok has been certified as the carbon neutral by Thailand Greenhouse Gas Management Organizations, the first carbon neutral hotel in Thailand. And she will be speaking or sharing experience about the hotel business towards sustainable production and consumption. Please welcome Kun Arisala Kapong.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my honor today to have a chance to share my management experience with you guys. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay.
เห็นแล้วครับ
โอเคค่ะเดี๋ยวนะคะขอ
full screen okay perfect ครับ
แป๊บนึงนะขออันนี้ okay okay if we talk about tourism or traveling, I believe that everyone look at it at like the happiness side, like we go shopping, we go hanging out, we go like enjoying food, scenic and cultural, and also a good sleep. That's the bright side of the tourism or traveling. And also when we travel, one of the most important things that we enjoy eating as well. But if we look at all this back into the environmental side, I think we will realize that traveling comes with transportation, of course, carbon footprint, and also for the food as well, especially Thailand, that 40% of our population are agriculture and farmers. We use lots of resources to produce ingredients. But at the end of the day, 1/3 of all of them end up at the landfill and cause the methane gas, which cause the greenhouse effects. And also the traveling business, we also produce lots of waste. We consume a lot. We eat a lot of food, and we also use lots of electricity as well. And now, after like more than 10 years of the booming business of travel in Thailand, I think now today, what affects us is we have a PM 2.5. We have the heaviest rain in the 1,000 years that cause our flooding problem every year. And also this year, our vegetable is the most expensive, and it's more expensive than salmon. So this is all the thinking and concerning behind our hotel. So Sivatel Bangkok, we are a sustainable boutique hotel that aims to be zero food waste hotel in 2023, and we aim to be zero waste hotel in 2024. Of course, when you go to stay at a hotel, everyone hope to have a happy moment. And of course, so we believe that we want to make everyone happy. And more than that, we also want everyone to know that everyone can pass on the happiness. So we start from our staff to make them happy and to make them have awareness of the environmental and problem. And then when they're happy, we believe that they will make our customer happy. And at the end of the day, all of us can pass the happiness to the local community and environment. So in Sivatel, we make things fun for our employee. Like we teach them how to grow organic vegetable. We have the Waste Bank project that teach them that every single waste that they throw away can be turned to money for them. And staying at the hotel, not only that we want to make sure that our guests have a comfy bed and sleep well, eating is also one of the most important thing in hotel as well. So at the Sivatel, we aim to provide organic food to our customer by using organic ingredients. And organic means safety, not healthy for us. So at the moment, 70% of our ingredients are chemical-free and organic ingredient that we buy from local farmers. And we also use local seasonal and local ingredient to produce to produce foods and beverage and dessert as well. This is some of the sample that we provide in the hotel. This our drink, the organic roses drink and profile cool breeze. This made from a 100% natural ingredient. And all of our ingredient we source it locally. And at the moment, we connected with more than 30 farmers and communities all over the Thailand, because we want to reduce the carbon footprint from importing foods. And we also want to promote and to support our local farmers to have better living and to serve organic food to our customer. So at the moment, it has been 5 years that we work with all the farmers. And you can see that every year, 2 to 3 million baht are the money that we pay back to the farmers and community. Of course, after we eat food, we have food waste and we have food loss. So at Sivatel Bangkok, we adopt zero food waste cooking. We maximize all the ingredients because they are all organic, so we don't want to throw them away. But at the end of the day, if there's any food waste, we make the food waste fertilizer in our hotel, and we grow the herbs and plants in the hotel and turn it into the dish for our customer. These are local herbs and plants that we grow in the hotel, so our customer can learn about the local herbs and plants through our garden and through our food. This is one of the sample that how we handle with egg. The eggshell, we collect it, make it dry, and send it back to the farmer chicken to be a mixture of the chicken feed. And the egg tray, we send it back to the farmers as well to help them to reduce cost, because for us selling the egg tray costs 1 baht per kilogram, but for the farmer can help them to save 3 to 4 bahts per tray. During COVID, our food waste reduced a lot, but and we had one project that we work with our chicken farmers. We grow soldier flyworm to eat all the food waste and send the soldier flyworm back to the chicken farmer to make a feed. So once the tourism, the customer come back, and of course we will have more food waste than we can make the fertilizer in the hotel. So we will resume the soldier flyworm project with our chicken farmers. Not only food, but in the hotel, we also focusing on chemical-free products. And we, at the moment, we don't have single-use plastic in the hotel. We use refill amenity and glass bottle, and we don't use plastic straw. We use a wheat glass straw instead. So after 6 years of attempt, at the moment, we can reduce 80% of the total waste in the hotel. And the last waste that we have now is food waste. So that's why we aim to be zero food waste hotel in 2023. Not only us who work on this side, but also our farmer friends as well. This is, I have 3 examples to share with you. This is Pion from coconut farm and Support from organic pork farm. They live in Ratchaburi in the same province. So they also have collaborate among themselves. Pion have coconut shell to manage. So now, the coconut shell is sent to the pork farm to reduce the harsh purchasing of the pork farm, and it can substitute 10 to 30% of harsh purchasing, and can help Support or the pork farm to reduce purchasing to 200 to 600 tons a year. And in return, at the end of the day, the Support, the pork farm will have the pig mark that made from coconut shell, and he sent back to Pion to grow the coconut tree. So it's helped Pion to reduce the purchasing of the fertilizer by 40%, and also help the community to reduce the coconut shell waste management by 70% a year. Also, at the same time, in this presentation is Amnat, who is our chicken farmer who produced the chicken feed by himself. Not only that we send our eggshell back to him, but he also connected with the fisher folk community in Phetchaburi to purchase crab shells and shrimp shell from the fisher folk community to be to make it at a organic chicken feed. And he also connected with Meta Organic to grow organic corn, and at the end of the day to be part of the chicken feed as well. So it's kind of the from waste to value concept, that what is our waste can be value to others. So at the conclusion, at Sivatel Bangkok, we focusing on providing organic food by using organic ingredient that locally sourced, and we use seasonal ingredient to provide tasty organic food for our customer. And next year, we're gonna redesign our menu to be zero food waste menu. We work with more than 30 farmers and local community, and we don't look at them as a supplier, but as a partner. And at the same time, we also exercise on no single-use plastic and reducing waste. And we use some eco-friendly packaging, and also have the waste brand project. And at the end of the day, we use zero food waste cooking policy. We make food waste fertilizer from all of our food waste to grow local herbs and plants in the hotel. And so all of our works, we working towards the sustainable development goal, and we try to promote responsible consumption and production. And most of all, we think the most important things that can support us to our achievement is partnership is the most important things. And all of this, you can find us at Sivatel Bangkok Hotel at the middle of Bangkok with nice facility. And all of our works has been certified by Green Hotel, Green Leaf, and UNESCO Sustainable Tourism Pledge. So at Sivatel, we believe that happiness we can share, and let's start a green life to sustainable. Thank you.
Okay, wow, thank you very much. Very impressive business models. So zero food waste, no single-use plastic, and also help like recycle food waste as well. So you send all the food waste back to the local farmers to reduce their cost. That's just very interesting. So because this hotel has been certified as a green certification, how does that help in terms of like consumer perceptions? Is there any like a certain group of customer who are looking for this type of hotels? So the reason why I'm asking this because I feel like many hotel doesn't want to do this because it's more costly to them. Maybe that is the misunderstandings. So from the cost perspective, doing such a thing like zero waste policy, no single-use plastic, is it more costly than a typical model business or not?
Actually, it's helped us to reduce costs. Because being a green hotel, at the moment we look at it on more sustainable hotel size. First of all, in terms of energy consumption, when we use eco-friendly system, aircon, and light bulbs, it helps us to reduce our electrical consumption. And in terms of organic ingredients, because we work directly with all the farmers, so we cut the middleman. Of course, some ingredient we accept that it's far more expensive, but some of them are cheaper. And especially if you look at the food loss side, for example, we used to use hydroponic vegetable, but they are so weak and they are fragile. So when I bought 3 kilos, and actually I can use only 2 kilos, and we need to count the food loss back at the end of the day. In terms of food loss reduction and directly buy direct from the farmers, in general, it helped us reduce our food cost by 5%.
So you think that this type of business model can be implemented in like a general type of hotel, or it have to be like in the big chains hotel who be able to do that?
Yeah, I think actually what we need is our heart to do so.
Okay.
And actually, it's not only hotel that can implement this model. Even hospital or restaurant or schools and factory as well. I think if we all do this by we call ourselves responsible business. We are not social enterprise. I think because if you look at the environmental problem that I show you at the beginning of my presentation, so we all have no time, and we need to take an action. And I think it's we shouldn't wait for the policy or the law, but we can start by ourselves. And it's not hard, but you need to be patient, because this all the work that you saw is our hard work through these 10 years, especially the last 6 years that we put a lot of effort on sustainable aspect.
Okay, so what is the response from the customers, like both Thai and foreigners?
I think we got more foreigner customer. But anyway, I think according to the latest information from booking.com, I'm glad that at the moment 70% of tourists search for green hotel.
Oh, interesting.
And booking.com gonna add one more criteria as a sustainable hotel into their searching the criteria.
Oh, okay. So basically the customer can like filters out the green hotel.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think especially with the COVID pandemic, I think people start seeing how the environment gets better and all the problem that going on. So I think at the moment, customer, especially from like Japan, from Europe or America, they are start looking for green hotel when they look at the hotel when they want to travel again.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing the experiences from the hotel. There's many good responses in the chat box as well, very impressive and inspiring, and a thumb up from the audience as well. Okay. Okay, so thank you very much, Kun Alisala นะครับ so for a very good presentation and hopefully I'll have a chance to visit the hotels soon นะครับ
Okay.
ขอบพระคุณ
Looking forward to welcome you all.
ขอบพระคุณมากครับผมเดี๋ยวยังไงเดี๋ยวถ้าเกิดยังอยู่ต่อได้ก็เรียนเชิญนะครับ so
ขอบคุณค่ะ
ขอบคุณมากครับผม so we'll move on to the next speaker คุณ Salila Sihapan, she is the Chief Sustainable Officer at Lotus Thailand. She has played a key role in developing sustainability strategy for Lotus Thailand and overseeing executing of sustainability programs over the past several years. So we learned about how Lotus has roles in managing like food waste in particular. Please welcome Kun Salila ครับผม
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can still stay awake after long hours of many presentations, but all are very interesting. Thank you, all the speakers. So first of all, thank you for having me here. If I may ask the organizer team to help project the screen, please. Just want to make sure I don't mess up the screen. Thank you. So basically, I've been asked to share particularly on the topic about responsible consumption, in fact, on the SDG number 12, right? But since we are a retailer here, I just want to share a lot of real life experience from a retailer, which I will focus more than just food waste as subject, because I think responsible consumption and sustainable consumption is very broad. So I just want to share more of the integrated approach. So before I start, if I just spend 1 minute introducing the company I'm representing today, because we have many foreign audience who might not be familiar with the retailer. So our retailer name is Lotus. We are multi-format omni-channel retailer, i.e. we are having about 2,100 plus stores right now around Thailand. Our stores are in different types. So we have small supermarket format called Go Fresh, and we have a big hypermarket called Lotus Hypermarket in the middle. We also have online as a grocery shopping platform as well. So we do serve customers around the country from many formats. Okay, next page. So when we say we are a grocery retailer, but in fact we are focusing on selling food. So fresh food is a big element of our business. We are having about 10 million plus transactions a week from 2,100 stores located in nearly every province around the country. And when we talk about food, we are actually handling nearly 20,000 SKUs of fresh and grocery food. That's the complication part where we think we have a big role to play in responsible and sustainable consumption. So the next page, I just want to highlight the reason I said we have a big role to play is because being a retailer, we are actually in the middle of the supply chain between producers and end consumer. So we see that we have a role to play to help develop sustainable business. So when I say we are in the middle of the supply chain, we are looking at the impacts that we are having on, of course, the suppliers from the small farmers to big manufacturers like FMCG. Obviously, we are impacting our customers on the way we behave as well. And also colleagues or people, employees who are working with us. Being a big retailer, we are having 50,000 plus employees in Thailand. Last but not least, actually, we are located in many communities. So whatever we do certainly have impacts on the communities in which we operate. So I just want to highlight the role that the reason why I want to bring to the table that we see sustainable consumption is a big element of our business, and there are many elements that we want to cover to ensure that our stakeholders we are providing positive impact to them rather than negative impacts. So next page, very short briefing on where we are in terms of sustainability framework. So like many other businesses around the world, we try to ensure that we have a proper framework to address key sustainability issues in our business. One thing I want to highlight is that Lotus was previously known as Tesco Lotus. We were part of Tesco Group, the big retailer based in the UK before, but right now we are actually been migrated to CP Group in Thailand. So we were sold to CP Group. As a result, we are working as part of the group who actually I am admired for their commitment and their aspiration to do big thing on sustainability. Two of the obvious things that we will also adopt. The first one is actually the group has set a goal to be a net zero carbon organization and a zero food waste organization by year 2030. I know that it's still far behind Sivatel Hotel, which is great. Actually, Sivatel have set a very ambitious target. But being a big organization, we actually set our own target, but I think it's still ahead of UN SDG. Previously, we were talking about have zero food waste by year 2030, right? But now we are looking at zero food waste by year 2030. So that's where we aspire to be. Apart from the big commitment, our framework, we are actually looking at 4 key areas. Obviously, people, our own people. We're talking about diversity, inclusion, human rights in our own people and our supply chain as well. Safety, of course. We look at products. We do sell many products, as you heard before that. Food alone, there are nearly 20,000 SKUs. So responsible sourcing is key to our heart. Animal welfare, because we sell a lot of poultry, seafood. We do want to support farmer and SME, the small and medium-sized enterprises. This is one of the key areas that Lotus are focusing on, because being agriculture-based country, Thailand have many small farmers and small business operators, and we do need to take good care of them and help develop them to become successful in the long term by working with a retailer like us. So that's the key area that we have been addressing. Health, cannot say more, particularly after COVID-19. Health agenda is even more important, and zero food waste. When we talk about places, I'm talking about communities actually. So local communities, everywhere we go, we should create jobs and sustainable income. We do a lot of food donation as well, being a food retailer. And linking to the health agenda is in Thailand, I think in many countries around the world, non-communicable diseases like cancer and heart diseases are very top on the list of the causes of death. So we are looking at help our communities preventing NCDs. For example, every year in November, we do have a free diabetes screening for our customers in our store, so they can come and check their blood, do a simple blood test in our store. And this month also, we do breast cancer screening, which is very expensive if we're talking about low-income people to go to do a breast cancer check in hospital. So we do mobile units of breast cancer check for our customers in the store as well. Other than that, obviously the simple donations whenever people are faced with crises, for example, when the communities get infected by COVID this year, we do donate a lot of food and a lot of help to the communities impacted by COVID. Last but not least, planet environment is dear to our heart. Being a retailer, packaging is a key agenda. Renewable energy, talking about solar panels and things like that, and circular economy. So I'm just giving you headlines here just to help you see that actually being a retailer, we do take care of all the important areas in the sustainability framework. But the next 10 minutes, what I would like to do is I'll just bring up some of the example on how we tackle each sustainability issue, and just to share with you the real life experience, and would welcome your thoughts and any question as well. So the next page. So this is if you ask me what is the most important thing being a retailer, I would have to say sustainable or responsible consumption, because we're talking about producing enough for consuming and not throwing away. Circular economy is obviously the key way of operating our business. So as I said, when we look at sustainable or responsible consumption, we are looking from end to end of the supply chain. We will not just look at any individual parts alone. So from sourcing to packaging of the products, to the product choices or offers that got to be healthy. And last but not least, when you have something that you offer and it's, there's a surplus, we ensure that we don't throw things away and we minimize the food waste. When we do all this, we make sure that we bring it back in a circular way for resource efficiency. So this is the framework of our responsible, sustainable consumption. So end to end, bring it back in a circular way. Okay. So next page, I just want to focus on one good example we think that we want to share. When we talk about sourcing, I think the key word, anybody can talk about responsible sourcing. You know, minimize environmental impact, good human rights practices, good quality, animal welfare, developing suppliers, things like that. But the key word actually that I want to underline here is responsible sourcing got to come with accessibility and affordability. So a lot of people perceive that responsible sourcing, you end up getting expensive things. If things are expensive and people, normal people cannot buy, cannot have access to, then there is no point of having a responsible sourcing. So the way we work is to make sure there's a win-win-win approach, business win, the producer win, and the consumer must win as well. At the end of the day, if the producer and the business win, but the consumer do not win, then there is no point of having responsible sourcing. So having this in mind, I just want to share the next page, which is our case study on what we do. So if you flip to the next page, please. Okay. I think like many businesses, we want to do a lot on direct sourcing. Sivatel Hotel just talk about buying direct from farmers. We as well, we want to do more direct buying, bypassing the middleman for many reasons. Of course, for business reasons, we want to get great quality products. When I say great quality product is because if you buy things through middleman, you have no control over the quality, particularly the safety. As you can imagine, in this part of the world, they use a lot of chemicals on producing vegetable and fruits. So if you're relying on the middleman, you don't have traceability into the products you buy. Then there's no point of telling the customer that you have good products. So buying direct help with great quality, and at the same time bypassing the middleman, be safe on the additional cost, so we can pass on the savings to customers to buy things at affordable price. So that's the first benefit of having direct sourcing. I think every businesses in the world would agree that is the approach that you should do. And at the same time, you have product availability. I would have to admit that Thailand, unlike many developed countries, we don't have advanced agricultural system whereby you can control crops properly. So when it's rainy season, when it's summer season too hot, you don't have enough produce for sale because the rain impact the crops, because you have insect eating all the crops. At the end of the day, you place order, but the farmers cannot deliver the goods to the store. There's a loss of business opportunity and the loss of income for the farmer as well. So right now, what we are doing, apart from just buying direct, is actually we have a team working with farmer groups, planning crops in advance. So what we do is we give them advance orders. We're talking about a few months or even a year in advance, telling our farmers who are working with us how many kilograms of this type of vegetable we want in each week, in which region. So the farmers can grow, they can plant, they can have some surpluses because they know that, all the crops that they do might not survive. So they know how much they want to plant, just enough to deliver to us, but there is no access to become food losses. So that's how we do. And the way we do is we work with groups of farmers because being a big retailer, we cannot go to each individual single farmer, but we do ask them and help them to group together in the same village and have a head of the team And we have a person we call farm manager we send to the site to work with the farmers. Apart from giving them advance orders and volumes, we also help them to check when the produce is nearly ready to be picked up. Then we check and we work with them, ensuring that the quality, there's no leftover chemical that is dangerous for human consumption, and help them on the packaging and transportation to ensure that there's no losses and waste along the way as well. So that's the model that we are doing right now. So we don't leave them alone until they have the crops ready and then we go in and buy. That's not the way, because it will not work in Thailand. Okay. So that's a business side. So we win, right? So when we win, the farmers also win, as I said, because once they know how much they can sell, they know how much income they can make. The real life story of farmers in Thailand is they don't know how to calculate profit. So they know how much they sell per kilograms, but they never calculate back on how much is the cost of fertilizer, how much is the cost of the seeds. Their own labor, they never count on how much they actually cost and putting labor in each day. So by doing all this, we help them making it clear on how much they should sell, because sometimes they just look at the market prices. Market prices, sometimes they will lose, sometimes they will win, but they never know whether they're making profits or not. So going to them at the beginning, at the start of the plantation, helping them knowing exactly how much they are making, that's the way to make sustainable income. Okay. So apart from making them aware of how to make profit, then the next stage is we never go and tell them that you got to only sell to us in an exclusive way, or in terms of the word some people know as contract farming. We do some contract, but we don't prohibit them from selling to other people, because the way for farmers to be sustainable is they got to have alternative markets. They shouldn't just sell to a retailer. What happens if today I cannot operate this store, I cannot sell this type of produce? They no longer have a market to go to. So what they should do is we help them identify what are the alternative markets that they can go to. For example, if they have a crop, there are many types of standards, so big fruit or the small fruit. The big fruit go to who, the small fruit go to who. They might even sell the fruit to the juice factory. So helping them from the planning stage is really crucial on making sure that they always have a market to go to. If anything collapses, there's a way that they can still make a living. So that's a key to the way we work with farmers as well. Right now, we have over 1,500 farmers in the program. Largely are the farmers who produce local leafy vegetables. We're talking about kale, morning glory, things like spring onions and things like that. The reason we have a large number of farmers is because, as I said, we do have them in region, and each region we have a few big groups of farmers that they group together with the head of the farmer group working with us, and then this head of farmer groups working with us in planning to which farmer grow what in what month. So they don't just grow everything all together at the same time, because it doesn't work that way, right? So if this farmer grow morning glory, how many farmers grow morning glory just have sufficient crops to sell to Lotus and other markets, and the rest they're growing something else which will come out in the next month. So that's how we work with farmers. So right now, the biggest one that we have established is actually in the northeast of Thailand, in Khon Kaen province. We always welcome a lot of visitors to go to this plantation, the farmer group in Nong Kwao. So for those Thai audience, if you're interested, please feel free to contact us. We are more than happy to bring you to the farmer group. So apart from helping with the social needs for the farmer group, on the pass on company assets and expertise, the more we work with farmers, actually the more knowledge we acquire, and the more insights and the more improvement we can make. We have to admit that when we start this direct sourcing model, it was not perfect at the start of the day, because a lot of communication issues, because farmer never do like business planning before. So you need to communicate closely. That's why we have a farm manager at the site working directly with farmers. And when do we do packaging, or when we have the vegetable, you've got to clean it up first and do some cutting and pack it. It was not perfect in the beginning. So we have to work together. And our key was we established a packing house, a simple packing house near the plantation. So that saved the distance of the travel and save food losses and food waste as well. So there are many things that we learn together and become a company asset and expertise that we think that's very valuable for our long-term growth as well. And the last thing I want to highlight is that this direct sourcing model, it will not happen without partnership of the key stakeholders. I think the first and when we first started this, we were lucky that we have a support from the government, the agricultural team from the government sector, working with us, with the community, so the farmer themselves and our business people. So we like a tripartite partnership that make things work. And that has been our key ingredient to success. And we have always been using this ingredient for the the past projects and the future project as well. So this is one thing that I want to share on the direct sourcing model. So next page. I just go quickly on the packaging. Like many other retailers in the world, we want to change our packaging, improve it, make it easy to recycle materials. The picture I show here is, you can see in any supermarket, the poultry packaging. If you remember in the past in Thailand, we used styrofoam packaging with a lot of plastic wraps. It's bad for both, right? Styrofoam and plastic wraps. So we changed this a thermofoam, we call thermofoam, which is a film of plastic film that is easy to recycle, and that saves a lot of plastics. And that helped in terms of, styrofoam. We discard the styrofoam as well. So with that project and also with the other project as well, we have stopped using styrofoam food packaging since 2019. And we also stopped using a single-use plastic carrier bag on the 1st of January 2020. So there's no, if you come to Lotus, you have to bring your own either cloth bag or anything. And if you want to buy a thicker reusable plastic carrier bag, we use a thick one and we sell. And if that's damaged, you can come back and get a new one from us free of charge. We call Back for Life project. Okay. And the last one is we have our own brand private label products, like this one. You see the chicken Lotus brand. So for our product, we are almost 100% easy to recycle materials right now. Next page. Health, as I said, we want our own people, our colleagues, employees, as well as our customers to have healthier choices. So every time they come to buy things. So when I talk about fresh food, we got to make sure that the quality food is that's safe as well for people to consume. Food labeling is very important. We do a lot of visibility and a lot of traceability for our food. And reformulation, we all know the trend is, less sugar, less sodium, less cholesterol. We have that commitment as well. And the picture here, you will see that the guy is picking up a bakery that's trans fat free. 2 years ago, all the bakery baked by ourselves are all trans fat free. So that has been continued. So that's one of the commitment example of how we take good care of our customer health. Next page. So food waste, we touch a bit. I just want to say that we got even bigger ambition by being a zero food waste by 2030. On how well we are doing, we actually since 2017, I think, many years ago, we were the first supermarket in pioneering the food waste agenda. And we are actually, I think, the only supermarket in Thailand that do audited food waste data tracking by international standards in 2019. And with that data tracking, we know that we're still having waste. In 2019, we sell 2 million tons of food, both fresh and packaged food. And about 0.49% is wasted. It's less than 1%, but it's not great because we are selling a lot of food. So by measuring this, we know how much and how we want to improve in reducing waste. So in the picture, you'll see the colleagues with baskets of surpluses food. At the end of the day, in the evening, what we have told our colleagues to do is to separate edible food and non-edible food. So the edible one, we have a partner food bank called SOS come and pick up in the next day morning, and they will give it to the underprivileged communities. So you look at the food that we cannot sell, it's actually still very in good shape, right? So we are giving those to the people who need food. For the non-edible one, we find way to discard them in the proper way. So the next page. So when I say discard, meaning that if you look in the middle of the picture, that's the zoo, right? So we give fruits to the bird. That's a bird zoo in China province. So we work with zoos and many local communities. Sometimes they go to fertilizers in schools or in the communities authorities. Many times they go to zoo. As I said, food waste is a key agenda. So we're looking at the way we reduce food waste from farm to fork. So at farm, I talk a lot about direct sourcing, which helps in the proper planning. So there's no losses and waste. We do a packing house at the plantation. We do temperature control transportation, which is key to a hot climate country like Thailand. If you remember in the old day, a lot of veggie they put on the open air truck, and 30% is dead after it arrived at the store. So we always use temperature control truck to save the life of the produce. At the store, of course, our practice in taking good care of the products helps in reducing waste. And at the same time, we have a reduce to clear policy. So before things go bad, we do a lot of discounts, and we do very deep discounts just to make sure that we get it out to the kitchen and people eat it rather than throw it away in our stores. So we always review the reduce to clear policies and our operation standard in the store as well, just to make sure that things don't get thrown away. And at home, very importantly, we did a big change. We did remove expiry date label on produce. A lot of people actually were not happy because they don't understand why do we remove expiry date labels on the produce. But actually produce are produce, right? If they don't look nice or it got bad, you would know it, you don't eat it. You don't need expiry date label because expiry date label actually confuse people. And a lot of food get thrown away because of expiry date label while they're still edible. So that's why we removed the expiry date label, but we got a lot of public hoo-ha of removing the label. So that's another real life story that I want to share. The things that look good on academic front might not look good in the social media, but in the end, we still removed it. And we do customer awareness campaign and work with many social groups on customer awareness. We do need more consumer awareness because in Thailand, we are a lucky country, we had lots of food. So a lot of people think that it's okay to have a leftover, but it's not okay actually. So that's food waste. Next page. Last but not least, I just want to talk about circular way. I want to be real in engaging consumers because sustainable consumption is about not just about the role of retailer, it's everybody's action. These are just two examples of how we position ourselves in being a recycle center, I would say. The picture on the left is a reverse vending machine where we collect plastic PET bottles and also soda can as well. So we have this type of 25 machines in many stores where we can put, because sometimes the store space is not big enough to put the machine. And for the past 2 years, we have collected 2 million bottles. And we turn these, we upcycling them. We work with many business partners, turn these to the shopping totes. Sometimes we turn them into new packaging. This concept, we want to actually continue, but obviously it's our own investment. Sadly, there is no incentive or anything from the government sector. So everything, all the machines, all the program and everything, it's just our own invention and our own investment. But we still want to do it more. So we're still trying to find a way to do a cheaper cost or a better investment, but we'll continue to roll this out. What consumer will get is actually we do a campaign, a loyalty campaign. Every time they deposit a bottle, they get a point, like a loyalty program point. That the point once they collect enough, they can redeem for discounts in our store. So there's incentive for customer as well. So that's incentive is coming out of our own pocket as well. There's no government subsidy or support whatsoever. And next one, another campaign that was very popular when we had the peak of COVID infection a few months ago. We don't have enough hospital beds. So FMCG, which is packaging, which is a company that does a lot of paper packaging, they invented box bed, which is a bed made from these cardboard boxes for the patients. So we did a campaign. Prior to this, we already did a campaign that we put up a recycle unit for people to donate cardboard boxes. But this time around, we tell people that whatever they put in here, we'll donate to ACG to make patient beds. It was so popular and was very, very well received because we placed this location in all the hypermarkets around Thailand. And we actually managed to turn this into 3,500 beds for the COVID beds. We do realize that whenever you link this type of campaign with a purpose, I say purpose is to help people with COVID. So whenever there's a real purpose, actually consumers, they want to join in. And some consumer events, they drive trucks loaded with paper boxes and come to give us like tons, I'm talking tons, not just like 10 pieces of cardboard boxes. They're giving tons of cardboard boxes to turn into a bed, hospital beds. So the learning here is whenever we do a campaign, if we have a real purpose, a clear, easy purpose, then people want to join in. So that's the learning. We continue to put up a campaign to encourage consumers in recycling. So feel free if you have any ideas to share. A few years ago, we also do straw donation. We collect straw. There's millions of straw we collected as well, and we turn them into pillow for bedridden patients. So there are many purposes we can do with things that people don't want anymore. So that's how we do circular economy, engaging with consumers. Right. Okay, ka. Thank you, ka. That's all, ka.
ครับผม ครับผมขอบพระคุณมากครับคุณสลินลานะครับ so thank you very much คุณสลินลา for give us a very insightful of what Lotus has been doing regarding the responsible production and consumption, starting with the helping like local farmers planning their plantations and managing their products, also reducing plastic waste, stop using single-use plastic, and also introducing healthy food into have like a recipe, healthy food recipe as a product sold in Lotus, and also have this sustainable policies. So I would like to go to the questions. Okay. So one question about removing expiry date labels on produce. Got complaints a lot from the consumers, and so how does that how consumer has been respond recently right now? I mean, at the beginning maybe there's a lot of complaint, but after a while maybe they got used to it and then stop complaining. Is that the case?
So we have the help of the government sector, the health ministry coming to OYO, the FDA came to help explaining that fresh food, there's no need to have expiry date, but still I think people don't truly understand. I think it will take time to explain more.
Yeah, so that's what's my question as well. So usually most of the food product is required by law to indicate the expiry dates, right? But for the fresh products or fresh produce, it's not required by law, right? So I personally never noticed that there's a expiry dates on the fresh produce actually, so that's good to know. So another thing is about the direct sourcing models. So since when have this program started?
We actually started about 5 and 6 years ago, but when we first started, it was a baby stage and a lot of learning. But when it became effective, I think it's about 3 years ago that we start seeing the real benefit and impact.
Okay. So and another question is about what is the standard that you mentioned, like Lotus standard in terms of product standards? So maybe the audience would like to know a little bit more about that standard imposed on the products.
When they talk product standard, there are a few things like their safety and the government regulations, right? That's always thing that you must meet the standard, like FDA, GMP type of standards. And when talk about not standard, specification would be the retailer would look for a certain thing. For example, some retailer want small fruit, some retailer want big fruits for certain promotion. So that's what we call specification. So that's subject to promotion as well. Sometimes we say that we don't need big one because we want a lot more. Just you grow, whatever you grow, we want to sell. But some retailer might just want to be choosy. I just want a nice one, like spec A, premium type, something like that. So that depends on types and depend on seasonality.
Okay. Yeah. And the last one, so we learned that Lotus is doing many policies trying to reduce food waste, but of course, at the end of the day, there's still some food waste. So what do you actually do with that, those food waste? So do you put it into
sadly, sometimes we have to just throw them away. Sadly, because there's no way to go. Because the local communities, there's no service to turn them into something else. And sometimes because there's no food bank to help servicing the waste as well. We are talking about sometimes you look at a small store, you've got 3 kilograms of edible vegetable, right? Nobody can collect 3 kilograms because of the driving to pick up might incur more carbon emission than the food waste itself, right? So that there's always a logistic issue about food waste collection. So that's something that still we have to crack on more. We don't want to have waste. At the end of the day, if we can sell all, that's the perfect, right? Because we will get more money. So we have to find a way to sell all until they turn them into some other products. For example, if the fruit is not nice, we turn them into juice. That's what we're doing right now, rather than throwing them away.
Okay. Okay, Kap. Oh, thank you very much, Kap.
Thank you, and sorry for the overrun. I think I
no, it's okay.
Thank
you very much, Kap. I would like to move on to the next speakers. Kun Vivek Anand Sithala. He is currently an R&D director for personal care at Unilever. He is responsible for design and development of hair care products and packaging in Southeast Asia and Australasia regions. He is also responsible for driving Unilever R&D sustainability and capability agenda for Thailand and inland Asian clusters. He will be sharing his experiences about responsible consumption and production from the business perspective. Please welcome Kun Vivek Anand.
Sawadee krap. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Let me try and share my screen and tell me if you can see it.
Okay, I can see it. I can see the screen now.
Let me just.
So at the lower right corner, yes. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Good. I'm not sure how to hide this, but let me try my best. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for the opportunity. As I said, what I'll do today is talk about our efforts on circular plastics. We heard the previous speakers speak about their work on food. Fantastic work by Lotus and the team. I'd like to share some of our progress on plastic commitments. So I'll talk largely in the context of ASEAN and some of the work we've done in the last couple of years in this part of the world. Quick introduction to Unilever. Hopefully all of you know us. We're about 88 years now in Thailand. We see ourselves very much as a local company in each of our local markets, working on local problems for local consumers and finding local solutions with the benefit of global expertise and technology. We've been around for several years in the industry. You know most of our brands. We serve about 2.5 billion consumers every year through our products and services. What is central to Unilever is our purpose. So our purpose is to make sustainable living commonplace. So every single employee of Unilever is focused on developing sustainable solutions. And I work in research and development, and pretty much my team is working on sustainable product design and packaging design, as part of our work plans. And it's one of the biggest reasons why new employees choose to join our company, because they believe they can work on practical solutions to sustainability challenges. Unilever is well recognized for our sustainability leadership in the last few years, and including in 2021, we've been rated as the #1 company for sustainability by peer groups. It's a big responsibility for us and very important that we continue to maintain this recognition and leadership. We were also a principal partner for the COP26 earlier this year. Over the last 10 years, we have made progress on several of our commitments that we had made in the past on health and well-being, environmental impact, and enhanced livelihoods. I won't go into the detail today, but recently we have made further commitments on climate, and included in that is a 1 billion climate and nature fund that we will sponsor. Our target is 2039 for net zero emissions in our operations. So we'd like to be ahead of many of the other commitments out there. And we've taken some fairly far-reaching commitments across different elements, including deforestation. We also have commitments around the food and waste of food, halving our food waste in our direct operations in the next 3 to 4 years, and zero waste to landfill, and no good food destroyed. So these are also commitments that our foods businesses are going to tackle in the next coming years. But today is about plastics and the situation in ASEAN. On plastics, we've made 3 large commitments. The first commitment is to halve the use of virgin plastic in our footprint globally. And we will do that by 2 means. We'll do that by using more recycled plastic, and we'll do that by also reducing plastic in our packaging by design. The second commitment is to use only recyclable, reusable, or compostable packaging. So by 2025, all our existing packaging, which is not recyclable, will be converted to recyclable. And the last commitment then is that we will collect and process more plastic than we sell. So we also commit that any plastic packaging that goes out into the environment is then collected and put back into the chain. So these are the commitments that we have made. All of these are for 2025. And we have made progress against each of these. It's a journey, and I'll tell you where we are right now. But let me spend a moment on the ASEAN picture as well. I think we all know this, but it's worth repeating in the context of this discussion that the plastic problem hasn't gotten any easier. In fact, after the COVID challenges of the last 18 months, things have probably gotten a step back because of the lack of sufficient collection, a lot of recycling infrastructure not fully utilized, and some projects being delayed. So there's a big need for us to pick up from where things were and accelerate this process. So the question we always ask is, are we choking in plastic waste, as Science magazine said? Because the amount of mismanaged plastic waste in our part of the world and the amount of plastic waste going as marine debris, as we well know, 80% of it is in Southeast Asia. But actually, we also need to look at this as a business opportunity. Ultimately, unless we find value in this chain of recovery and reuse, we will not get enough people interested. So the World Bank estimate this is the highest I have seen actually, is 6 billion wasted on Southeast Asia plastics because we only have about 25%. Even that's a generous estimate, of recycling. So there is significant value in managing plastic better than we have in the past. So what is our approach at Unilever? From a design perspective, our approach is to do what we call less plastic, better plastic, and no plastic. Less plastic is about, at every stage of design, can we see how we can use lesser plastic than before? So maybe, for example, lightweighting up our bottles. For example, reducing the size of our sachets and pouches. So can we use less plastic? Better plastic is about using recycled plastic, about creating recyclable solutions, and finding biodegradable or compostable solutions. That's what we call better plastic. And then no plastic, we also have work in this space to see, are there opportunities in some cases to not use plastic at all, but replace with another material? But we understand also that all of this, from a design perspective, goes hand in hand with the right waste management and partnerships externally. So that's our journey to circular. Over the last few years, as we have seriously tackled the plastic challenge, we've learned a few things, and we've summarized these under 3 headings. We call it educate, enable, and expand. Educate is about educating consumers, educating our partners, educating the wider environment outside on the right way of collecting plastic waste through consumer segregation of plastic waste from other waste within plastic waste and segregating to the right degree that we need for recycling. That's the first step. Second is enable, which is what are the collection infrastructure, mechanism, technology, and tools that we need to do the right amount of collection of plastic that is then discarded by consumers. And finally, there's a technology element, which is once you've collected the plastic, what kind of technologies and techniques and tools can be used to manage it, recycle it, and put it back into the system at the highest value possible to recover the 6 billion we talked about earlier. So the intention of this to say that the 3E model is to create value across the supply chain. And at each stage, we believe that there's a business case for somebody to create some value for themselves. Let me talk about the technical challenges first. So I'll talk about the expand part. And let me take 2 examples. So in the case of Unilever products, we have got 2 significant challenges in this part of the world to be able to move to 100% recyclable, like I mentioned. The first is on flexibles. A lot of our packaging in Vietnam, for example, or Indonesia, or Philippines for that matter, would be in consumer sachets, small sachets, medium-sized sachets, large sachets, or pouches. Today, they're all made with multi-layer structures. So it could be PET plus PE or PET plus PP, other structures, which are not easy then to recycle, even if they're collected. So one job we have is to convert our recyclable packaging from multi-layer, non-recyclable to mono-layer recyclable. And the other big challenge we have is, for example, in our beauty products is to do the recyclability of pumps and other dispensing mechanisms. And these are very fast growing parts of the market, as you can see some of the numbers on the chart. So I'd like to share a couple of examples of what we have done in the last couple of years. So this year we launched in America, Love Beauty and Planet, which is a beauty care brand, which is a 100% recyclable bottle already, but the pump was not recyclable in the past, because the pump is made of several different materials, as you can see on the screen. Each of them is a different component made of different materials, and then you can't recycle the whole. So this year we worked with our partners to design the first mono-material polypropylene-based pump that is a single structure and will then, if collected, be fully be able to be recycled. Not only that, there's a pigment in that pump cap that can then be detected at the recycling facility to allow the right kind of segregation and sorting. So this is the first time that we have done this, and thanks to our partners, and we hope to roll it out to the rest of the world in the next couple of years. Similarly, in the case of pouches, we have in different parts of the world, again this year, managed to move our pouches from multi-layer structures to mono-layer structures, Turkey, America, Europe. There have been significant technical challenges to overcome. I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute. But what we have realized is that by working with the right kind of partners who have the technology expertise and the right kind of internal technical experts, we can create the right brief and the right kind of situation that helps us solve problems. So each of these is slightly different product inside, requiring slightly different barrier properties and requires slightly different technical solutions as a result. So our partners, Mondi, Dove, and others have helped us to reach these solutions. In the case of Southeast Asia and Vietnam, as I mentioned earlier, sachets are a big part of our sales. I'm really happy to tell the audience here today that just a few days ago, literally a couple of weeks ago, we have managed to launch the first recyclable sachets in Hanoi in Vietnam, which have just hit the market. This is our brand called Clear, which is a shampoo brand, anti-dandruff shampoo brand. And those sachets out there, you see the pictures of, are actually in the market now in Hanoi. There is a QR code on the pack telling the consumer where they can go and deposit the sachet after use. We're also doing a consumer campaign with it to educate consumers, and we are partnering with a few of our partners in Vietnam to help then collect, segregate, sort, and recycle these sachets back into the system with the help of our recycler partners. So this is our first experiment in this part of the world to do a fully circular design from scratch and then focus on our biggest challenge, which is sachets. It's still early days. We've just launched in one country, in one brand. We now need to scale this up to take it to all of our brands in all of our countries in Southeast Asia over the next 3 to 4 years, and that's our plan. So what have been our learnings in this process? Actually, we learned a lot of things that when you start to change material design, we have to think of a lot of things. On the one side, there are supply chain considerations. We make millions and millions of these products every day or every week. Our existing infrastructure, so the machinery in our factories, not all of it was compatible with the new structures, and not all of it was able to manage the new structures. So we have to invest significantly in upgrading and changing the technology of our machines with our machine partners to be able to run these new structures, because they tend to be more flimsy. They tend to not have the same kind of structural properties as multi-layer structures. So designing for manufacture is a big part of the problem, especially the kind of scale we are talking about. The other part is functionality, obviously, because we need the product to be kept safe. We need a long shelf life. We need the product to be the sachet to be printable at a good quality so consumer can read all the instructions and ingredients. And we also need then that to have the right kind of functionality like tearability and ease of use for the consumer. That's the other challenge. How do you design something that meets both consumer requirements and the supply chain requirements? And of course, while we're trying to move from one structure to the other, we can't do something then that does not improve the recyclability in the total system, not just outside our factory, but beyond consumer usage. How can we pick it up and then recycle it back? So we have been working with these new structures, monomaterials, with our recycling partners to give them the materials and say, if you could recycle this, what can you create? And we're happy to note that the early response is quite positive, that this is quite recyclable. It can be mixed with other recycled PE streams and can fully go back into circularity. So we're happy with that, but there's a big missing step in between, of course, which is the collection part. Yeah. So designing for new structures actually means designing for recyclability end to end. That's been our learning, and that's our recommendation. Coming then to rigid structures, we have been working on the last couple of years on trying to include post-consumer recycled packaging, or PCR, into our packaging in Southeast Asia. So these brands you see on here, and actually several more brands which are not on like Dove and Sunsilk, all use different levels of recycled packaging already. Some of these here are all 100% recycled packaging. And in our beauty care products, we have less than 100%, but we made a start to use recycled packaging in those products as well. So what we are hoping for is that we can start using recycled packaging, recycled content in our packaging and create demand. So because recycled packaging requires significant investments of infrastructure, so we need to collect plastic, bring it to a facility, recycle it, and then sell it to users like us. And not everybody is willing to invest till they see a demand. So our job here as Unilever and as a user company is to create demand by saying that yes, we are in the market for recycled plastics. And I'm telling everybody in the audience who's interested, if you have recycled our HDPE or our PET, we're interested in talking to you. Yeah. So we started doing this by importing into Southeast Asia, but we would like to make it circular economy in the countries in Southeast Asia. That's our goal, and we're happy we made a start. We'd like more organizations to join us. We're also looking at other technologies, for example, chemical recycling beyond mechanical recycling. It's still very early days. Chemical recycling has a lot of challenges to scale up and be cost effective. But for hard to recycle plastics, we need alternate methods to mechanical recycling. So we are working with companies like Ionica, Indorama in this example, where we're trying to create take plastic waste, be able to create monomers and use them back in our packaging. This is one example of what we have done, but there's more to come. And of course, there are several challenges on scalability and cost, which we have to overcome. So that was on what I called expand, which is the technology side. But technology is only as good as our ability to collect the plastic and bring it back into the loop as a first step. So looking at the education side, so consumer point of view, when we did some consumer research, what did we learn? Around 53% of consumers are already reusing disposable items. 47% of consumers like or would like to buy products made from recycled materials. And 36% of consumers are willing to stop buying a packaging that's not recyclable. So from an intent perspective, consumer interest in this area is going up. It is still relatively low overall in Southeast Asia compared to other parts of the world, but interest is growing. Interest is certainly growing. So that is not an excuse for us anymore. We made this film in India. I just want to show you a quick clip of consumer education around segregation. Yeah, so this was done with many of our partners, including Gaze. Sorry about that. Give me a moment. Yeah, so it's a simple message saying, why, if we segregate and separate everything else in our lives, why not plastic waste as well? And in terms of education, we have done other programs in Southeast Asia as well with different partners to try and educate our consumer base, but also the industry and our partners and ourselves, in terms of what is the best way to land the message that everything starts with segregation, that increases the recyclability, that increases the value of the plastic in the end. We're also working on education in terms of reuse systems. So we committed also that a certain proportion of our business, we'd like to look at reuse and refill technologies. So on the left side is bottles that might the consumer can take home, use, and then bring them back to a store to refill. We could also have other models with, for example, door-to-door delivery we're doing with a process called Loop with many other partners. So what we promised is that we will experiment and pilot in this space around the world, and we'll share our learning from time to time online. So I've given the link here. I'll put that in the chat later. You can go and read about our progress in the space of reuse and recycling systems. So this we also think is very important. In some situations, it's quite possible to reuse quite effectively and reduce the impact of the total plastic used in the system. So we are also then working with several partners on actual collection systems. So coming to this middle part, which is enable, we have different tie-ups around the world, including with the UN, DP in India, looking at, and Bangladesh and Pakistan, I think, looking at different models to do hygienic, safe kind of collection of plastics. We've got partnerships with the local government, NGOs, and other company partners in Indonesia on the waste banks. So around 12,000 tons of waste collected already through the waste banks in Indonesia. And similarly in Philippines, we have something that is, again, across industry partnership, and we have a plastic credit exchange program. So we're working on different types of pilots around Asia to look at what's the right way to educate, but also then segregate, collect, and scale up, and to create some kind of a repeatable model that we can use again and again when it comes to collection of plastic. But that's where the whole story really lies, And in Thailand, closer to home, we have about 8 partnerships in Thailand, looking at different types of models again on collection. We have a recycled collection center in the middle of the picture set up with some of our partners here. We can drive through, leave your plastic waste, and then go ahead. We're also doing some work with Sansari in terms of doing work at actual condos where consumers would like to segregate and separate their waste. So these are all pilots, but we really need to build more scale. In the UK, we have set up something called the Flexible Plastic Fund, which is with the Unilever and several of our partners that you can see on this page. Here again, the intention is to create a 1 million fund to be able to collect and recycle flexible packaging easier, because that's a challenge sort of all over the world. Yeah? So that's a bit of the progress that we have made on the different elements I spoke about, which is educating, enabling, and expanding to be able to go along with our commitments to make progress on recyclability, on use of recycled plastic, on collection and processing. Yeah? If I may just summarize my thoughts from today, the first word that comes to me is collaboration, because there's a lot of stuff involved here which is well outside our scope of expertise. We recognize this long back. We work with several technical partners. We work with partners in countries, in education and government, NGOs. We are willing to work with anybody to be able to find solutions in this space. In terms of collection, I think there are a couple of big opportunities, certainly in Southeast Asia. One is to harmonize the touch points and the technology solutions on collection. So for example, if there's one app for collection and there's, some people are using a different app, why can't these apps talk to each other so that it makes it easier for consumers to know where to go and collect their waste? Similarly, in the case of PCR, we find that more commitments from companies to use PCR and working together on regulations for PCR and tax incentives will probably benefit the industry totally. That is my talk for today. I appreciate it, the time, and thank you very much again, and welcome your questions.
Thank you very much, Kun Vivekanand. So there's one question from the audience. So regarding the recyclable success in Vietnam's monomaterials, which plastic type is used in mechanical or chemical recycling?
Yes, so this is mono PE structure. So this is a polyethylene structure. We were using a PET PE structure in the past. So as I mentioned, this is literally a couple of weeks old. So we have just gone to the market with these, with the consumer education campaign. And we have worked with some recyclers to show that this can be recycled. But as I mentioned earlier, and it's important to note that we still need to do the right kind of collection. So we're also doing some pilots around collection and the QR code to educate consumers where to take the sachets. But this is PE, polyethylene.
Okay. So this is for my personal question. So regarding like a sausage type of packages, so there's still a lot of demands on these like small packages products. I thought that the per unit cost maybe is higher, but maybe they cannot like buy like a big bottle of shampoos or yeah.
Yes. So if you look at, for example, life cycle analysis, it's quite interesting that the flexible sachet, which is like the 5 peso sachet in Philippines or the dong in Vietnam, these are per mil of product or per gram of product, much cheaper than using, for example, bottles or other materials. So while bottles are obviously very convenient to use, like you mentioned, the put down price for many consumers is very high, so they can't afford. Bottles make sense when it's a certain size and above. Mm-hmm. And then in bottles, what we need to do is encourage reuse. So if bottles are reused, then the packaging use per gram will come down. In the case of sachets, they're actually quite light, and it's a very cost-effective and low plastic usage solution that we have today. The problem being, of course, that it is all over the place and hard to collect and recycle. Yeah,
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So Unilever also have done a lot of like working on like an eco design, right? But there's some barriers that maybe there's no local manufacturers could like produce such a product. So in terms of cost effectiveness, so having this like eco design is more costly or cheaper.
Okay, so it depends on the situation. So for example, the post-consumer recycled I talked about, so using recycled plastic in our packaging in ASEAN today is more expensive. And why is that? Because two reasons. One is that if you import it into the country, then there's a total cost of importation, etc., and the landed cost is quite high. If you want to make it in Southeast Asia, many of our partners are setting up facilities now in Thailand or Indonesia, as well. but the amount of plastic collected today is quite low. So if you want to get plastic to the recycling plant of good quality, because one of the important things in consumer goods is passing something called a migration test. A migration test makes sure that nothing from the plastic is going into the product and damage consumers in any way. So the migration test requirement is quite a strict one. So to make it safe for consumers, by still using recycled plastic, you need good quality input, and that is sometimes costly because we don't have scale. But we believe that if we invest today and we build scale, over the few years, the prices should come down. But our job is to then, stimulate demand and interest in this space. And we hope that over time, prices will come down. But yes, moving to recyclable or recycled solutions today is a bit more expensive in this part of the world.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Khun Vivek and Anin. I think that would be, thank you very much for your insightful presentations and stay with us until like 5 o'clock. Okay. So,
okay. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thanks again, everyone. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So lastly, I would like to invite our associate professors, Nilamon Suthamakit, the leader of this project and also the director of the programs centers, to have the concluding remarks. Please welcome Ajahn Nilamon Kap.
Thank you, Ajahn Anin. I would like to thank you all of participants, which came from 63 organizations, both in Thailand and international and other countries, and all distinguished speakers, including Dr. Mushtaq Memon, Associate Professor Sian Lai Jung, Associate Professor Dr. Baba Sabas, Mr. Michikazu Kojima, Ms. Mei Ling Ting, and also Thai colleagues and Thai organization here, representative Mr. Vivek Anand Chistala, Kun Salila Sihapan, and Kun Alisala Sivayathon. All distinguished speakers has shown us that I would say I have 3 R. First R is reduce the gap among countries. This information would help us to reduce the gap. The second R is remind. How important our participation be among public sector and private sector to move on forward the circular economy and green economy. And the third 3 is expecting that we are going to reshape the domestic policy or strategy in Thailand, especially in Thailand. We learn from all of the speakers. And I would like to thank United Nations Environmental Programs for their financial and technical support for this. This project has been running, and this activity will be nearly the end of our project. Finally, I would like to thank Dr. Suchitra Wasanadamrongdi from Environmental Research Institute, Chulalongkorn University. I would like to thank Associate Professor Anin Aroonruengsawat, who are our moderator today. And I would like to thank my team. All the speaker may know him, Mr. Salan Pravitrangoon, and his team has been run this program altogether and run it well. And we would like to thank all these participants who are participate all these questions, sharing us the experience and some of the key issues that we will go to move on and we can learn from. And the program is not starting yet. There will be there will be some other outputs that from UNEP. There will be another step to move on to circular economy and sustainable development. So I would like to thank all of you again, and I think it's time for us to ending this seminar. And I would hopefully that next week we might meet again the next time. And thank you all the guests. Thank you very much.
ครับผม Thank you อาจารย์นิรมนต์ครับ So thank you very much all the audience and participants. I already provide the link to all the presentations in the chat box, so you can download all the presentations. And if you have any questions regarding this presentation that you would like to address to the speaker, you can send an email to ProGreen's centers, and then we will try our best to address this question to the speaker and then give the response to you. Thank you ครับ ขอให้ทุกท่านโชคดีครับผม สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
ค่ะ
ครับผม